How are you gonna assume that I'm gay just because I have rainbow hair, wearing a rainbow shirt, I got a rainbow pride flag?
How can you assume that I'm in a sign factory just because I have signs here and sign packing back there?
You walk into your new classroom to meet your teacher and you see me. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I'm homeschooling.
I wish that I was good enough.
What's up, homie? I'm Tony. If you want to find a reliable LED sign factory, LC Sign was founded in Guangzhou in 2011.
Reasons why I can't go to war. Number 1, I get nervous.
Number 2, too gay. Anyways, check out the discount code below.
I am my boyfriend's first black girlfriend.
If you're black, then I'm real Donald Trump himself. China, China. I know China very well. I know every.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Viewers Discretion. I am your host, Joe Newman, aka Good Logic. I hope that you've been having a phenomenal weekend. I hope you don't live within 500 square miles of the city of Minneapolis. That's my prayer for you. You don't live anywhere near that city. Frankly, cities like Portland or Los Angeles, which are apparently hot zones as well, as riots have taken over the city in the wake of today's shooting. This is what you get for protesting on a Saturday. Of today's shooting by an ICE agent of a legal observer. Doesn't feel like a real legal observer when you come there packing with a couple of magazines. It doesn't feel like a legal observer, but at the same time, I do want to be clear here. I think that this guy was put in this situation by his leftist leaders. It doesn't mean that this is a justified kill. I want to be clear about that. I don't know that anyone knows that it was a justified kill or an unjustified kill at this point. At this point, from the video evidence we have, it's much less clear to me, at least, that the video evidence is something that definitively exonerates ICE, the way the Renee Good video definitively exonerated ICE, or that it inculpates them. It doesn't. I don't know that it's inculpating or exculpating, frankly. That's my take of what I've seen so far. I'm going to be curious to get your take on this as well. But when I say that this guy was invited down there and almost told to go to war by these leftist leaders, these insane leftist leaders, I feel like my audio is sort of fading and coming back. That's what I feel like is happening here. When I say that that's what's happening, it's only because that's basically what they've been saying.
When things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line for the nation on that July 3rd, 1863. And I think now we may be in that moment that the nation's looking to us to hold the line on democracy.
What does that mean? You're supposed to hold the line on democracy. The nation is looking to you as if you're some sort of fighting unit to hold the line on democracy. You tell me what the citizens of your fair state, perhaps too fair, are supposed to take from that comment. What are they supposed to take from that? Other than, come there strapped. Come there ready to fight. And we see, sadly, that that's exactly what they've seen like they've been doing. That's what they're all about now. And it's only getting worse and worse. It's only getting worse and worse. I mean, this is the lunacy here, which I want to be clear here. I certainly do not support what the video you're about to say. I stand against this in every way, shape, or form. But this is the level of lunacy that we're seeing ratcheted up by Tim Walz, Jacob Fry, Keith Ellison, and all these lunatics on the left.
My name is Kyle. I'm Antifa, and there's so much rage in me that I've had to record this like 15 times trying to get the message out. They fucked up, okay? Go watch my other videos. Doesn't matter if you're not here and you're not caught up. You missed the fucking fight. But if you are, it's time to suit up. Boots on the ground. Nicollet and fucking 26th. My house is 4 blocks away. Anywhere between Franklin and Nicollet and 26th and Nicollet. Show up, ready to go. Okay, not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations anymore. I am talking specifically to my fucking followers. This is everything I have fucking talked about, and this is exactly what I said was gonna happen. This is exactly what I said was gonna fucking come when we didn't fucking go and march on fucking Whipple with guns. Sorry, but
these people are begging for there to be a lot more blood in the streets. Not ice blood. Not ice blood. They are begging for there to be a lot more blood in the streets. And this is the chaos that happens when you have a Jacob Fry and Tim Walz running a city. Did you ever hear them call for peaceful protesting? Did you hear for them? Did you hear them call for peace at all? In any way, shape, or form? No. All you heard them scream is, get out, ICE, get out, get the F out of our state, get out of our city. That's all you heard them say. So lunatics like this, who's clearly a deranged lunatic, I don't know if he thinks he's Braveheart. I don't know what the hell this dude thinks he is. He's a lunatic. I mean, that's something anyone. You don't need me telling you that. You don't need to come here to learn that this idiot is deranged. What are you calling for here? So you're going to go out there and just start shooting up ICE? Like what is the plan? This is insanity.
welcome to America 2026, where Second Amendment is the only thing that's going to keep you fucking protected from literal fucking Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street with impunity. This is not a fucking joke. There's nothing fun to chant about it. Get your fucking guns and stop these fucking people.
This guy is insane. And he and his ilk are being prodded along by the likes of Tim Walz and Jacob Fry. There's no question about this. It's not like something like this is like a maybe type of thing. This is something we all see is what's happening. And more people are getting closer towards being like this idiot. It doesn't seem like it's going to be dialing back anytime soon. I think it's not more likely there's going to be more accidents as more people come there armed. I don't think these ICE agents were trying to kill that guy. I don't think they were looking for an excuse to kill that guy. They would have gunned him down much faster if that was the case. That does not mean, again, when I looked at this video, I'm like, I don't know. You know, it's a tough case. I don't think this is a case that just gets washed away the way the Renee Good one does. I don't think it gets washed away. I'm not saying the guy's guilty. I'm just saying, and I can share with you a video breaking down why he should be exonerated. But to just say so simply that, hey, this is clear case of self-defense, it's a justifiable kill. It's borderline to me. I think the guy was a lunatic for showing up there with a gun. I think that he was, perhaps reaching for his gun. They likely thought that that's what he was doing, in which case they would have a self-defense or defense of others claim. They likely thought that. But when you get a breakdown of the video, it's not so crystal clear from the videos that he's, that this is something that was, we'll look at the videos. We're going to look at the videos. We're also going to be looking at some of the reactions, some of the statements that have been made by Kristi Noem and by Tim Walz and all these idiots. And I definitely plan on watching with you some of the riots that have been going on and are going on right now as we speak. That there's rioting, from what I understand, in Minnesota. There's rioting in Oregon. There's rioting in California. And yeah, this feels like it's going to be taking on a whole new life now. It'd be absolutely insane if a SIG P-380 going off on its own, which they are proven to, results in Minneapolis crumbling. Okay. I don't know that it went off on its own. This is, I don't know. Here's the thing. This powder keg has been put in place by Tim Walz. This is exactly what he was praying for, something like this. He's going to sit there crying about, justice for Alex Pretti. Pretti. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but you know, he's gonna be trying to justify. He killed him. Tim Walz killed him. Jacob Fry killed him, and they're thrilled that this happened because it just gives them justification to say, you see, this is what ICE does. They come in here and murder our citizens and making it less safe. This is exactly what they were hoping for. They got it to. I was watching Potential Criminal earlier, and there were people and they're legitimately comparing ICE to the SS and KGB. Stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's insanity. If they were looking to kill him, they would have killed him right away as soon as they saw the gun on him. They would have just blown him away. When you're covering for billions in fraud, you must be nuts. This is true too. I think the position of the left is very. It's not sane. It's not a sane position. It's not a sane position at all. But I'm with this guy. I mean, this is what I want to be clear. I saw this video and I was like, yeah, I have to agree with this guy here. This guy here. Who is this guy? I don't even know what his name is. What's his name? Evan? I was like, yeah, this is a very realistic take.
I am already seeing creators defending ICE after seeing this video or accusing ICE of murdering someone after seeing this video. And I would just warn everybody to be cautious of any creator that's doing that, because I watched this video. It does not look good, but it also is not conclusive. There are some videos out there where
I would love to get your take, brother, on this. I would love to get your take. You can walk me through and tell me, that this is justified or unjustified. I'd love to get your take on this. I'll send you a link. I will totally send you a link. I don't know if you have time to come on here. But, I mean, I think when you look at this, he doesn't have a gun in his hand. What is it that they're thinking? What is it that they're knowing?
you can pretty quickly draw a pretty sound judgment about what happened there, but this is not one of those videos. We don't have all the angles. People's bodies are constantly covering each other. We can't hear what's being said. We can't see if a gun was pulled. So I would not say that this is a conclusive video, and I am not going to make a hasty post to either defend ICE or to accuse ICE of murdering someone. And I think that anybody who is out here already doing that is probably doing what they think their audience wants them to do and saying what their audience wants them to hear. So I would just caution you against any creator that's already drawing definitive conclusions.
And I think that's a realistic position to take, because he obviously doesn't have a gun in his hand. In fact, by the time he was shot, he was unarmed. Now you can say that he was disarmed less than 3 seconds earlier. And the people who are wrestling with him don't realize that, and they think he's going for the gun. So they think that this is a life or death situation. And Andrew Branca may come in here and tell us a lot about his perspective on that. Who says the only thing being unlawfully slain is any reason understandable lawful use of defense force. But, and I'm sure he's going to come in here and walk me through, whether or not they have whether or not they have a reasonable belief of imminent death or serious bodily harm for themselves or others. And given the situation here, it's very possible that they do. It's very possible that they do. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to hear from the guy who actually took the shot. He has to at least say what he was thinking, right? I mean, without hearing from him, I don't know that you can just say, that's what he thought. And he'll likely say the right things. I would expect he'll say the right things. Hit the like and subscribe. The beard is looking on point, brother. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a little fuller. I've been working towards fleshing it out, like really fleshing the beard out. So it's a little fuller. It is. We have a goal up tonight that if I hit 15 super chats of $10 or more, that includes super chats, rants, and so rants from the ghetto or digger dollars, $10 more a pop, that I will be doing another show tomorrow. So sometimes we hit the goal, sometimes we don't. I never know when I start the show where it's going to end up. There's no way to know. It's really just, but here's the incident as it played out from what many consider to be the best view. I don't know that I've seen every view, but we'll look at some that are more close up. Obviously, there's screaming and whistling, which is very annoying, purposefully annoying. Doesn't make it very sympathetic. By the way, the whistling, I think, probably works to ICE's advantage. It's harder for them to hear what's going on because of the insane whistling. They think they're helping themselves. They think they're putting themselves at greater risk. But they're stupid. And there's very little reason with them. So that's Alex right there, walking out into the streets. He doesn't realize he has less than 60 seconds of life left in him. I don't know what's happening with the woman he's about to attack. We're going to see him attack some woman. I don't know what's going on there.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
And these idiots. Now, we don't know who this, I don't know what is with this person here. And this person. I don't know if they're fighting against ICE. Are these anti-ICE people? I don't know what they are. It's a very weird situation. But they give it, but he seems to be with the guy who's attacking these women. And he's about to get wrestled to the ground by a bunch of agents. And now he has a gun on him at this moment, I believe, strapped to his ankle.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Not sure, it's a hip holster? Okay. I don't know. It's so hard to see anything. Some say I've heard hip holster. I thought it was on his ankle. I don't know. And now shots ring out. This is supposed to be like the best view. I don't know what we're supposed to see from this. We don't know what I don't know what we're supposed to see with this. And obviously, I'm reviewing this not to glorify any of this. This is horrible tragedy. So I want to be clear about that. This is terrible tragedy, no matter how this went down. But he's dead now. I don't know how many bullets they fired there. Now you just have the subsequent screaming.
Oh my god! 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 The fuck did you just do? The fuck did you just do? Yes, Liz, somebody call the ambulance. Somebody call the...
So anyway, I don't care about the rest of this. Because it's just more screaming and more idiocy. So I don't know what we can make out of that. You guys think you have a beat on this? Because I'm all ears here. I'm all ears. Do we know if any of the ICE had body cam on? We haven't seen their body cam yet. They probably, I don't know, maybe. Tomorrow's playoffs, nobody will be watching. Maybe. Who knows? I think some people will be. Some people won't be. So here's one guy breaking it down in defense of ICE from the opposite angle.
I watched multiple angles of this incident.
This guy here, who is circling the empty hand, is an ICE agent who's going to wrest the gun away. And he's going to say, well, look, you see he gets the gun away like less than 2 seconds before. So as far as these other ICE agents who are wrestling with Pretti, they don't know that the gun has been wrested away.
This ICE agent goes up, he disarms the person they're detaining. The rest don't see that. The rest don't know that this man's been disarmed.
Okay. I guess he's taking it from his ankle, right?
He then reaches for a gun. There's nothing there. The others don't know that, and they actually...
And maybe Pretti is thinking, did they just take my gun to use on me? Like, who knows what the hell he's thinking? We'll never know what he was thinking. But they're saying that he went then reached down for the gun. So did he think it was there or wonder if it was taken from him? Why is he reaching for it? And then if he's reaching for it, that's justification for shooting him, even if he doesn't have it anymore.
shoot him. Just a few seconds after he was disarmed. But your man walked away and I don't think he said anything.
So there he got the gun away from him.
Gun in hand. Just walks away there. And at that very moment, it looks like your man reaches down to grab something. All these people...
I don't see him reaching down to grab anything. I personally don't see that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I don't see it.
Here deserve better. That man should never be in a position where he thinks it's justified or it's the moral thing to do to go out and stand in the way of these ICE agents doing their job.
I agree with that. That's ridiculous. What the hell are you bringing a gun to a peaceful protest? Why are you doing that?
That's because there's a lot of people on the left making it out as if it's the moral thing to do. Obama deported way more people than...
That's not really true. He sort of did and sort of didn't. I want to talk to you a little bit about Obama's numbers since he's bringing it up. Obama did deport a lot more people, but not from the interior. They basically started counting in order to make it look like Obama was getting something done. When he would like turn people away, you know, they basically call that a deportation. So Trump has been way more effective in removing people than Obama. Also, Obama's numbers were over 8 years, and what Trump's done in 1 year is a million times more than Obama did in any 1 year.
Trump has. Nothing was said. The reason now it's a problem is because you have media organizations, you have politicians in power riling up the public. All these people deserve better. Those ICE agents should be able to do their job. The public shouldn't be manipulated by these media organizations and politicians. None of this should be happening the way.
All right, and I have great news for you all here. Phenomenal news. And I'm going to be joined by the preeminent expert in self-defense law in American self-defense law in the world. And that is none other than Andrew Branco. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I almost feel bad because I assume you have a flow you intended for the show, and I'm kind of...
No. I don't. I feel an echo of myself.
Oh, sorry. That's me.
Right.
That's me.
That's all right. So I have a flow. And I'm not worried about you messing up my flow because much of my flow is focused on the reactions from Kristi Noem, from the left. And also I plan on spending some time watching some of the riots that are going on live right now. Like that's part of what I'm doing here. But, you know, if I can help me get informed about the law of self-defense with respect to this particular kill, I think I'm doing a service to my audience. And I'm always looking to help them get as informed as possible.
Hey, is my audio low?
It's a little low.
Okay, I can fix that. Let's see.
Oh, that's better.
I didn't change anything yet.
Well, it sounds better.
I changed something now.
Okay.
So hopefully that's better.
Okay.
I can't figure out all this stuff.
Yeah.
So the first thing I should say is people need to understand when I comment on these cases, I'm agnostic about the legal outcome. These people are not friends of mine. I don't really care what happens to the officers or not on an emotional level. I just do a legal analysis. And the legal question here, and this is the thing I think people have trouble. People tend to default to a preponderance of the evidence standard because that's how we normally approach life. But the legal question here is, did the officers who fired shots have a reasonable perception, not correct perception, but a reasonable perception based on the totality of the circumstances that they were facing an imminent unlawful threat of deadly force harm? And anyone seeking to prosecute them, overcome their justification, would have to disprove that beyond any reasonable doubt. So it's not like, is it more likely it was lawful? Is it more likely it was unlawful? What you need to see in all these videos is evidence that would prove beyond any reasonable doubt that the officers who fired these shots had a reasonable perception of an imminent unlawful deadly force threat.
They did not have that. They did not have a reasonable...
No, they had a reasonable perception. Well, you would have to disprove that they had that reasonable perception, right?
Right. Okay. Right.
So that's a very high standard. That's the highest, threshold of proof we have in American law. In other words, even if you think it probably wasn't lawful, but there's some possibility it was, then that's a justified shooting under the law. Mm-hmm. And anytime someone comes to a protest as an advocate for the side against the police, armed with a gun, plenty of ammo, gets in a fight with police and is non-compliant with arrest, and then they see a gun or they hear a gunshot, bad things are likely to happen. An officer who hears a shout of gun and then a gunshot fighting a suspect is likely to have a reasonable belief that his fellow officers have observed a threat. Even if he doesn't see it himself, he's allowed to rely on the perceptions of his fellow officers. And the guns are going to come out and the shots are going to get fired. And again, they don't have to be correct. And they don't know what each other know, right? So they don't know that one cop walked off with a gun. They're not Ethernet wired together, right? They're making their decisions from their own individual subjective perspective.
Right. So my question is this: by that argument, can a cop, in theory, say anytime he's wrestling someone who has a gun strapped to a holster that he's in reasonable fear of his that he can use lethal self-defense because he's in reasonable fear of imminent serious bodily harm or death?
Yeah, absolutely. So someone's being forcibly non-compliant with arrest and the officer's wrestling with him and the officer feels a gun. If I was that officer, I would create distance from that suspect, draw my gun and shoot him.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Don't be fighting a cop with a gun on your person. You're a deadly force threat.
Interesting. And I assume there's case law to that effect that if the guy is armed and wrestling, that's
so he's violently resisting lawful arrest, right? He's not just passively resistant. He didn't just lay on the ground and he's making you pick him up. He's fighting you,
right?
And he's got a gun.
Right.
Well, now the fight, there's a gun in the fight,
right? So even though he's outnumbered like 4-1 or 3-1, whatever, that doesn't matter. You can still clear a gun from your waistband and shoot somebody. You're still a deadly force threat. Right. And I had a feeling you were going to say something to that effect, and it makes sense why the law is that way. As from the optic standpoint, it looks bad. Yeah, but that doesn't. But I understand what you're saying, and there's logic behind what you're saying as far as why the law would be that way. And I'm sure you're right in your assessment as to what the law is. So I'm not questioning that. I'm simply
and there's things the officers probably didn't know that we know today, right? Like I'm hearing this guy erased all his social media presence before he went to the protest. If that's true, that's a guy who didn't plan to go home.
I don't know that is true, or maybe. Sometimes I heard they scrub that stuff, Sometimes I feel like they scrub it so that people won't see it. That the powers that be do that. But that wouldn't help them. That wouldn't help them because it goes by their subjective knowledge at the time.
It doesn't help the cops, no. But it maybe provides context that could explain this guy's behavior.
Right.
Like if I'm at a protest, I'm not fighting cops. I'm just not doing that.
Right. Well, you probably wouldn't go there strapped either. So,
well, I wouldn't go. If I went, I would be strapped.
You would be.
I'm always strapped. I don't go anywhere if I'm not carrying a gun. But that means I wouldn't go.
Right.
I just wouldn't go.
Right.
And this guy not only brought his gun, he brought 2 spare mags.
Right.
Like 20 rounds apiece. I carry a gun every day for personal protection. I don't walk around with 2 spare mags. They're heavy. They're not convenient to carry.
Right.
In what circumstance, in what self-defense scenario are you going to need 64 with the round in the chamber, rounds of ammo on you? I mean, is this the Matrix?
Yeah. I mean, look, I blame this kill. I blame this kill not on ICE and not even, sort of on his own stupidity, but this is what the leftist leaders, they were hoping for this situation. This is exactly what they wanted.
So imagine we had a scenario here where one of the cops just decided, I want this guy to get shot. So I'm just going to fabricate a claim that he's got a gun, that he's presenting a gun. I'm just going to shout gun.
Right.
And one of the other cops hears gun and shoots him. Mm-hmm. The shooting would still be lawful.
Right.
Now, the guy who falsely shouted gun might be in trouble, right? I mean, he might have committed a reckless manslaughter by doing that, but the officer who fired the shot would still have fired lawfully.
And I'm sure the person who, as long as the cop didn't see the gun removed, if the cop had seen the gun removed by the second cop, then in that case he would not have a valid
No, we don't know that. People carry more than one gun. People carry more than one weapon. So a gun could be removed. If someone's reaching for their waistband where weapons are concealed, that's a huge red flag for someone who's fighting armed officers, people he knows are armed officers. You start reaching for your waistband, and there's a good possibility you're going to get shot because that's where weapons are kept.
So you're saying even if he's reaching for his waistband and there's no gun there, and in that case, that would be a basis for them to have a valid lethal self-defense claim.
The officer would say, I had a reasonable perception, and reasonable perception just means a perception. You applied your powers of reason to things you were actually seeing. You didn't speculate it, right? If you're seeing someone reach for their waistband, they know they're fighting a cop, and they're reaching for the waistband where weapons are routinely held.
Yeah. Here's the problem. Okay, I'm accepting everything you're saying as being 100% accurate, true, and a proper portrayal as to what the law is. Here's the political problem that I see. Okay, if you don't press charges and have him, what should happen in a utopia would be, okay, so press charges, let him come forward with self-defense, and that the jury would acquit him based on the law, or that a judge might even say as a matter of law that, there's enough here that to acquit him. But because of the political pressures that are existing in Minnesota, that if charges are pressed, there's a really good chance here that a Minneapolis jury is just going to convict him irrespective of what the law says.
Joe, that wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be justice, even if you knew you could have a fair trial and a fair jury. We have checks in the system to prevent that. Because that's why we require like a sworn information or a grand jury indictment before you can drag someone into a felony criminal trial. Because you shouldn't just say, it's the Middle Ages where we say, throw the witch into the river, and if she floats, she's not a witch, and if she sinks, well, it turns out she was a witch. We don't subject people to the punishment of a criminal trial unless we have good reason to believe they're guilty. We have at least probable cause to believe they're guilty. I don't see that here.
You don't see probable cause to think because
I don't think it's more likely than not that this was an unlawful shooting.
Uh-huh.
And that's the legal standard. I mean, that's why we have grand juries, right? So a prosecutor can't just say, well, listen, I don't really know if he's guilty or not, but let's just throw him in front of a jury and see what happens. Because just the noise in the system, there's opinions vary, but 10, 20, 30% chance of getting convicted by a jury, no matter how innocent you are.
Right. That's what I said. And especially a Minneapolis jury, I think there's a 98% chance this guy will be convicted because people will be terrified about acquitting him. Even if they're not activists themselves, the political pressure, like we saw with Derek Chauvin, would be so intense that there's no way that a juror could judge that case fairly. So it would end up becoming a circus, and it would be mob rule under the guise of being justice. That's what it would end up like we saw with Derek Chauvin. So, and that's terrible. But I think it's an interesting point you're making that is not probable cause, more likely than not that this was an unjustified kill because of the circumstances that we see.
Right.
That's a great point.
Now, listen, obviously different facts result in different legal outcomes, right? So if this guy kept a diary where he said, I'm just going to murder one of these protesters, I mean, that would go to his state of mind. That would be different. But just based on what we're seeing in the videos, I just don't see a malicious killing here.
Right. I think if there was a malicious killing, it would have happened faster. I think it would have been something that they would have seen the gun and just blown him away. I think it looks as if they were seeing him resist and that he was, very clearly kicking and bucking. And this was what's so aggravating is that I know that they're like in Tim Walz's in his governor mansion there, and that they were popping champagne when news of this came out. They were thrilled with this.
Right. Well, this is their stochastic terrorism, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's Gestapo, everyone's Hitler, everyone's a Nazi, and they just know there's enough crazy people in their community. It's like if you ever play that pachinko game, you ever play that where you throw the ball up at the top of the game, it bounces down a bunch of little pins all the way to the bottom, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's what stochastic terrorism is. You never know what path that ball is going to take.
You don't
One
care.
thing you know for sure, it's going to get to the bottom.
Right.
Eventually, it gets to the bottom. These progressive fascists, they don't know exactly who's going to kill who, but they know people are going to die violently because of their rhetoric.
Right. And that's ultimately what serves their purpose. So I'll ask you this. If you were Trump, what would you do something differently with respect to this scenario here? I mean, you become more
other than
analyst.
invoke the Insurrection Act.
Well, I'm asking you, do you think he should invoke the Insurrection
Act? I think he should. Yeah. I mean, in our lifetimes we haven't. I mean, in my lifetime we have, maybe in your lifetime, but in most people's lifetime they haven't seen the insurrection. At least their adult lifetime, they haven't seen the Insurrection Act invoked. But the truth is, the Insurrection Act that allows the president to deploy military forces within the borders of the U.S. What's rare about today, 2026, is this is actually the longest period in American history in which the Insurrection Act has not been invoked. Mm-hmm. It's been invoked routinely throughout American history more than 30 times. So it's not uncommon under circumstances of this kind of lawless violence to invoke the Insurrection Act. And frankly, the president not only has the authority to invoke it, he has a constitutional duty to do it. He swore an oath under the Constitution to see that the laws are being faithfully executed, and they're not.
Right.
And so he's violating his own oath, his own duty, by not invoking the Insurrection Act.
I think we're going to see it happen sooner rather than later, because I think that these protests, I think he saw what happened during the Summer of Love, and the stain.
I mean, is he waiting for an officer to get killed? Is that what he's waiting for?
Maybe.
Politically, I could understand that. It's rather cold-hearted. But sometimes, as a commander-in-chief, the equivalent of a military officer, right? Sometimes you have to do that. You have to set a tripwire. You have to set out a forward observation post. If the enemy really attacks, those guys are going to get wiped out, but then you'll know they're coming. Maybe that's what he's doing.
I'm sure
it's got to be a heavy burden.
I'm sure they have sketched out by now. Okay,
what the tripwire is?
What the tipping point is? Yeah. They must have, right? I mean, they seem like they have their act together. One of the things that impressed me a lot when I was doing my year in review on January 20th is that they seem very attuned toward how to keep things legal, how to frame even like his EOs, and with the expectation they're all going to be challenged, and what steps can we take in order to use the right magic language to give a reviewing court enough to hang their hat on to support this measure that we're implementing here.
I agree.
And then when there's been a decision against them from the district court level, they've been very careful to at least pretend to show deference in 99% of the situations, like as much deference as they could, while still circumventing it. Well, working within the boundaries that they've been given and trying to circumvent it to get the thing done as much as they possibly could. So,
what I've been laughing about recently is, you remember the Seditious Six? They told all our military, "Hey, you don't have to follow unlawful orders from Trump." Mm-hmm. But you know how many of these unelected federal district trial court judge orders have been overturned by the Court of Appeals or overturned by the Supreme Court? That means every one of those orders was what?
Illegal.
It was an unlawful order.
Yeah.
Right. So Trump is supposed to follow unlawful orders, apparently, but no one is supposed to follow his orders in case they might be unlawful.
Even they seem to just wantonly disregard what the Supreme Court tells them, and they've done that over and over.
An open rebellion, right?
Yeah.
Open, just
our district
word
court
salading.
Yeah. I introduced my audience in the spring to the concept of an unlawful court decision. That's an illegal court decision. This is illegal because they're ignoring their constitutional duties and they're basically sidestepping that. That's illegal. They have a duty to uphold the Constitution, same as anyone else. And
if a federal judge told Trump, "Hey, you have to round up all green American citizens and machine gun them to death," what's he supposed to do? Just follow that order?
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I was like, when Judge Boasberg starts, issuing orders that are well beyond, that are clearly and blatantly beyond his purview, that's an illegal order that he's issuing there. And now that's setting up for there to be a constitutional crisis. Like, will he follow it? Will he not? And And like I said, he's done a remarkable job. The only reason we haven't had a constitutional crisis is because of the adroit skills of his legal team, which has been, and his inner circle there, and giving him guidance as to, okay, how do we work with this nonsense that we got from a new judge today? So I think that I do think we're going to see the Insurrection Act probably within the next month. I'll tell you, I think it's getting crazy now, and I don't think he wants a repeat of the Summer of Love.
Well, I don't think he would allow that. I mean, if they actually, I haven't been watching. I live streamed like 4 shows today, so I took a couple hours off. I'm not sure what the status of the riots are around the country, but I don't think we're going to see some, news reporters in front of a burning Target building saying, "Hey, it's mostly a peaceful, protest going on." I don't think Trump's going to stand for that. I do want to address something I saw in the comments, and somebody said, "Hey, these officers, they can't be tried in Minnesota anyway because they're federal officers engaged in federal duties and blah blah blah." And that's technically true. The problem for these officers, theoretically, is the party that would assert that privilege is really the federal government. The federal government would say, you cannot prosecute our officers in state court. That's how it's always been done in the past. Mm-hmm. But imagine if in a couple of years, a Democrat's elected president, and we have a Democrat Department of Justice. And at that point, Minnesota says, hey, there's no statute of limitations on murder. We're going to prosecute all these ICE officers who were involved in these events for murder. Is the equivalent, is the President Tim Walz administration going to fight against a state level prosecution of an ICE officer? I don't think so.
No way.
I think they'll just let it proceed. Any more than they would have come to the defense of a Derek Chauvin.
Yeah.
And there is no statute of limitations. So it could happen anytime, right? They just keep a list. You know what these leftists are like. And the only caveat to that really is, well, I mean, if Democrats get elected, it's all over anyway.
Yeah, but that's, you have to figure eventually it's going to happen. Yeah, so what does happen to Jonathan Ross at that point in time? I mean, eventually, unless he gets, a pardon from Trump.
No, that won't help.
And that wouldn't help on the state level. And that wouldn't help him on the state level. Yeah. His life is screwed now because of that. So
I mean, he could color his hair purple and then he would blend in.
Yeah. Yeah, but
they would be like, this can't be that officer. He's got purple hair.
Jonathan Ross, the day Democrats, come to power. I mean, yeah, they're going to turn over all the records, and Minnesota's just going to go after him. That's definitely that's what we're going to see. That's totally what we're going to see. I think that the Insurrection Act is something. Let's play this out. So now he invokes the Insurrection Act. What do you foresee that triggering? How does that manifest? Like he's like, okay, I'm declaring the Insurrection Act, and therefore I'm calling on the military to go marching into Minneapolis.
Yeah, right. So that's what they could do. They could besiege Minneapolis as if it were a foreign city that we were seeking to conquer. They could surround it with troops. They could send patrols in. They could grab everybody and put them in military prisons.
Wow.
They'd be effectively prisoners of war.
Wow.
I mean, that's what Lincoln did.
And we'd start seeing it in one city after another. We'd see it in Portland. We'd see Los Angeles. We'd see it.
You'd have to do it wherever it was happening. But that's exactly what Lincoln did. Lincoln, because of course in the Civil War we had all these border territories. Right. Where they couldn't decide which way they wanted to go, and there'd be sizable groups on both sides. And Lincoln would just say, well, I'm not giving up that city. And he would just send in federal troops and just seize everybody who was causing any trouble. He'd put them in a federal prison and just keep them there for the duration of the war.
Yeah.
By the way, Lincoln did it without authorization from Congress.
Right.
Congress gave him authorization after the fact. They said, all right, we're going to approve what you're already doing. But he didn't wait for their permission.
So if he declares the Insurrection Act, he's going to need congressional approval?
No,
I haven't
the Insurrection Act is the congressional
approval. That is
approval.
the congressional approval. That is
right.
That's what.
Have you read it? It's almost completely discretionary.
I haven't.
It's the broadest possible discretionary. If you were a Congress of either party and you had a president you loved passionately, this would be a power you would give him. It's almost completely discretionary with the president. If in his opinion, if he desires, if in his judgment, it's not like the 12406 statute he used to call up the National Guard in California, where there's, there has to be, he's unable to enforce the laws. The insurrection just says, well, if it's impracticable. What the hell does that mean? That doesn't mean unable. That just means, well, it's not practicable. There's some friction there.
And based on the way Jacob Fry and Minneapolis, it's interesting. Pam Bondi sent a letter to Tim Walz tonight. Did you see that letter that she sent?
No.
So she sent a letter. I'm gonna actually pull this up here. Pam Bondi letter. She sent a letter.
Said Pam Bondi, and I got a migraine.
Yeah, but I think this might be at the direction of Trump in order to lay groundwork for justification for a declaration of the Insurrection Act. And, I only thought of this when you're sitting here because I'm just like, I wonder how that letter would play out as far as him basically saying, look, we gave them their warning. We tried doing this and they just no matter how formally they get asked, they're just not willing to do anything. I'll share with you all this letter here and you can all weigh in as to whether you think that this is a precursor for the Insurrection Act. So here's a letter from the Office of the Attorney General where she says, Tim Walz, Governor of Minnesota, the state of Minnesota has refused, it's a 3-page letter. State of Minnesota has refused to enforce the law and the consequences are heartbreaking. Americans are watching politicians ignore federal immigration law, criminals attack federal law enforcement, and rioters storm church services. I write to urge a change. You see, this language of I write to urge a change is this way when they don't respond positively. They can say, look, I've tried using peaceful methods. I've tried using negotiation and formal requests in writing, and he's completely unamenable towards actually remedying this situation. And he's, willfully standing down from it. In December 2025, DHS launched Operation Metro Surge to protect Americans from dangers presented by unchecked illegal immigration, including violent crime and drug trafficking. Since the beginning of this operation, law enforcement has put themselves in harm's way to arrest dangerous criminals, including members of notorious violent gangs. Criminal illegal aliens convicted of homicide, drug trafficking, sexual assault against a child, rape with a weapon, and other horrific crimes are now off the streets because of Operation Metro Surge. Unfortunately, you and other Minnesota officials have refused to support the men and women risking their lives to protect Americans and uphold the rule of law. Because Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul have chosen to ignore federal immigration law by enacting sanctuary laws and policies, the federal agents led by U.S. Immigration and Customs, led by ICE and CBP, have operated alone. And politicians in your state are not just refusing to help these agents, they're putting federal agents in danger. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry said, ICE, get the F out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. You referred to our law enforcement as Trump's modern-day Gestapo. Minneapolis City Council member Aisha Chugtai stated the city must be ready to act as the last line of defense for the targeted communities. Minnesota AG Keith Ellison has previously compared ICE enforcement to being under attack by the Nazis. The result of your state's policies and politicians' anti-law enforcement rhetoric are a national tragedy. Violence against ICE officers has increased approximately 1,300%. Vehicular attacks on ICE officers have increased 3,200%. Perhaps most disappointing, the lawlessness caused by these policies has bled into sacred spaces of worship. Parishioners were met by an anti-ICE mob last week as several dozen individuals stormed City's church in Minneapolis to interrupt worship services and scream in the faces of frightened Christians and their families. The violence against our officers and the violations of religious liberties cannot be allowed to continue. See, this is where she has a beautiful foundation here, which is
you know what she's doing as a lawyer, right? She's establishing a factual record, essentially. Right. We've seen this in the district court judges who pushed back on Trump's activation of National Guard. They would just say, well, basically the protesters have given me 1,000 pages of declarations and factual claims, and the government has only given me 10. Right. So I'm going to just weigh them as if that's what you do and side with the protesters.
Right.
So they're trying to offset that argument here.
The lawlessness in the streets is matched by the unprecedented financial fraud occurring on your watch, and the out-of-control fraud in your state also implicates election security. It is a tragedy the Americans have lost faith in Minnesota's ability to keep its taxpayers' funds secure and its citizens safe. You and your office must restore the rule of law. See, this is why I think that this is a precursor to, we're telling you what you need to do so that we don't declare the Insurrection Act. Support ICE officers and bring an end to the chaos in Minnesota. Fortunately, there are common sense solutions to these problems that I hope we can accomplish together. And this is a way to basically, the left is framing this as an offer of, let's make a deal that if you do these things, we will pull ICE out of Minneapolis. That's not what she's saying. I think it's, if you don't do this, we're going to declare the Insurrection Act and we're going to be coming in.
They're not pulling ICE out. If anything, they would double the numbers again. They would pull ICE agents from other states to flood the zone here.
Yeah. So she has 3 demands. First, share all of Minnesota's records on Medicaid and food and nutrition service programs, including SNAP, with the federal government. Allowing the federal government to officially investigate fraud will save Minnesota taxpayers money and ensure.
But this is a trap. She knows they can't do this.
Oh, of course. I mean, because it's basically
they're hip deep. They're all hip deep in this.
Yeah, they've all been taking so much money under the table on this. Second, repeal the sanctuary policies that have led to so much crime and violence in your state. Removing criminal illegal aliens from Minnesota neighborhoods will save lives, and state and local officials should support this goal. All detention facilities in your state should cooperate fully with ICE, honor immigration detainers, and permit ICE to interview detainees in custody. So let us have access to the people you already have. I urge you to reach an agreement with ICE that allows them to remove illegal aliens in custody in Minnesota's prisons and jails and avoid pushing these interactions onto your streets. Third, allow the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to access voter rolls to confirm that Minnesota's voter registration practices comply with federal law.
They can't do that either. I mean, this is an existential threat to their political power because no one's actually voting for these people. It's all rigged. It's all ballot harvesting. And so if there were honest elections, they know they would be dead. By the way, this applies to some Republicans too. And that's why we have so much trouble getting ID required in-person voting. The reason you may be wondering, well, why don't even the Republicans vote for that? Some of the Republicans hold their seats only because they gamed the system too. They wouldn't have won an honest election either. I mean, look at Murkowski, granted, who's barely a Republican, but she's nominally a Republican. I mean, she won her seat by just about the same number of votes that they had new no ID registrations for a month before the election. All of a sudden, a bunch of people registered and voted for her that never existed before in Alaska, and she got reelected. So if you're one of those politicians, right now you are secure in your office under the current corrupt system. They don't want to change that system. They're afraid if the system were honest, they would lose.
Right. So as Andrew's pointing out here, these are 3 demands that she knows they cannot meet, which makes you ask, why is she making these demands? And I'm speculating that this is a precursor towards declaring the Insurrection Act.
It's a trap.
Fulfilling this common sense request will better guarantee free and fair elections. I'm confident that these simple steps will help bring law and order back to Minnesota and improve the lives of Americans. The time has come for state and local officials in your state to change course. As the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, I'm committed to enforcing federal immigration laws and keeping every American safe. Sounds like here comes Insurrection Act. Minnesota can and should be a partner with the administration. Do not obstruct federal immigration enforcement. Do not allow rioters to take over the streets and houses of worship. Do not hinder federal officials from investigating financial fraud and violations of election laws. Whether state and local politicians stand in the way or not, we will work every day to protect Americans and make Minnesota safe again. I request that you join us in this effort. Sincerely, Pamela Bondi. So now you sort of have to ask yourself, why is she sending this letter, if not as a precursor for the declaration of the insurrection? Say, look, we gave him this opportunity to work with us. He clearly refuses to work with us. So now we have to declare the Insurrection Act. Now, the Insurrection Act would be, I see you shared here with me a link to it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The Insurrection
It's very short. It's one paragraph, but I sent it to you so you could see how broad and discretionary the language is. It's amazing. That's your link, right? That's not me, my page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he shared with me here 10 USC 252, use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority. Whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations or assemblages or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call into federal service such of the militia of any state, and use such of the armed forces as he considers necessary to enforce those laws or to suppress.
Look how discretionary that is, as he considers necessary. The obstruction only has to be impracticable, not impossible. Is it possible to give a president more authority to call forth the military if he thinks it's necessary under these very broad conditions? It's an amazing.
It's very, very broad. It's clearly intentionally broad. And
under 12406, which is what he used to call out the California National Guard and such, it says things like, if there's a foreign invasion, and then the courts get to say, well, there's not a foreign invasion. It says, if he's unable to enforce the law, and then the courts say, well, but if he's able to do it once in a million tries, he's not unable. He was able to do it once. Here They just say, well, if it's impracticable, not impossible, but just impracticable.
Yeah. So I think that so that's why I think that this letter from Pam Bondi is purposefully set up in order to justify the invocation of the Insurrection Acts.
What Trump should do is his social media team should come up with like a little 1 minute video. I mean, I did a show on this, but they should follow my lead. A little 1 minute video showing all the presidents who've used the Insurrection Act, all the way from George Washington through Lincoln there's dozens of them. Mm-hmm. And then put at the last one is Trump saved the nation.
Yeah. That's because he has to be mindful of the political blowback that will come from this. I mean, I think he's afraid. I think they want him to declare it, so this way they can they're hoping that it'll help them in the midterms. And I think
their narrative is he's a dictator, he's Hitler, right? He wants to be a king, no kings, all that stuff. But you blow that out of the water when people understand. It's not like this is some archaic rule. I mean, it was used in 1992 by H.W. Bush. It wasn't that long ago. It's not this archaic rule that's never been used in American history, and he's just dredging it up so he can be a king. It's been used more than 30 times. This is the longest period in American history where it hasn't been used.
Right. And I think he's trying to hold off on using it before the midterms, but they're forcing his hand. I think Tim Walz and the left want him to invoke the Insurrection Act, and he's trying to lay as much groundwork as possible to justify the invocation of the.
Can he wait till the midterms? I think Trump's big vulnerability in the midterms is that too many people on his team are going to say, "Well, we elected this guy, and we haven't seen much progress."
Yeah.
Most of the progress we've seen, of course, has been on the foreign policy front, and that's been awesome. But you don't win elections in America on foreign policy. You just don't. You win elections on whether people feel better about their situation and their prospects moving forward, and that's all domestic. And if people feel like, well, we elected this guy, and everyone says he's Hitler, and things haven't really gotten better for me, even if they won't vote for a Democrat, they just won't show up to vote for you.
Yeah. And that's really what we're looking at here. Frankly, I think that if they want to win the election, they need to do away with the filibuster and actually start passing laws, left and right to codify all this stuff. I think that it's suicide that we have so many of these neocons and such cucks in the Senate that they're afraid to do away with the filibuster. But I think that they need to just basically strip that thing down and just start passing one law after another as to federal regulations on voting, and actually passing some of these DOJ changes. They really need to show that they're serious about this. If he does that, if he can get the Senate to do with filibuster and just start cramming through these things, and frankly, I think another government shutdown might result in that. If we get that government shutdown, that might result in that. And if they don't do it, I think they're almost definitely going to have a government shutdown in September. They're going to do the same thing. They saw how well it works for them in November of 2025. They shut down the government and then pretended it was Trump's fault that the government was shut down. And that's by most accounts the reasons why it is that people were like that the Democrats came out and the Republicans stayed home. So why would they not do it again in 2026? So if we can expect that they're going to do it in 2026, in that case, we're going to have to do away with the filibuster before November. So why not do it at this point in time when we can actually pass a whole bunch of laws which are going to make MAGA and frankly America happier? Ultimately,
it's Americans. It's the only way to survive, right? I mean, let's face it. If the They say Biden brought in what, 20 million illegals? It's a multiple of that, but let's pretend it's 20 million. What do you think they're going to do next time? You know, it's going to be tenfold that. It'll be 200 million. They'll make them all instant citizens, and America will be gone. They're going to pack the Supreme Court, so there's no way to reverse it. There's no checks. They're going to make Puerto Rico and D.C. states, so there's no way the Republicans can ever have a majority in the Senate again. They're literally telling us this is what they intend to do. So if the Democrats get back in power in our lifetime, it's all over.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a black pillar. I don't think that has to happen. I think we can win. We have a path to victory. We also have a path to this being the last 2-year heyday of the United States of America. As Reagan said, it's a time of choosing. We have to choose.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, they're going to come after all of us. You and me, they are going to be like, we're already on lists.
You think so?
Yes.
You get the same death threats I get?
Probably not as common, but we're on lists. And I'll tell you right now, it's not just you and me. I think people smaller than us are. I think that they are basically.
Ultimately, everybody is. It's going to be like South Africa. So, you know, all you people out there who have, like, you own a home, you have a 401k, you're comfortable, they're going to come for all that. What do you think 200 million Somalians are going to do in America if they can vote? You think they're going to let you keep your 401k? You think they're going to let you keep your home? They're going to take all that. They'll just pass a law that says that's ours now. They're pirates. That's what they do. They're going to do in Minneapolis what they're going to do that to all of us.
Yeah. This has potential to get really, really, really ugly in ways that we've never contemplated. Scary times. But the thing is, as you say, it's a time of choosing. And in fact, if they actually manage to find a way to choose right, in that case, this can be a rebirth time for America. You know, that we actually have fair elections. We actually have, you know, federal laws passing that are designed to help ensure that we have a fair election. It's a very, very
of course, the
time.
whole point of fair elections is, I mean, it feels stupid even to have to say this, but I think people don't think about it properly. Yeah, the reason you want fair elections is because you want your government to be answerable to the political will of the American people. And to the extent the corruptions are corrupted, that's not happening. The government becomes answerable to people who are not the American people. You're not living in a republic anymore. You're living in this world, this weird George Soros, NGO, third world migrant tyranny.
Right.
It's not an American republic. Now, if we fix that, if we were to remove I would suggest it's about 200 million and third world migrants currently in America competing with Americans for every scarce resource: housing, healthcare, education, employment, infrastructure, food, everything. I mean, not because they're evil people necessarily, but if you're a human being, you need those things. You need housing, healthcare, education, employment, food, infrastructure. If they're here, they're competing for all these things. And that's before we even consider them looting it like the Somalians are doing. And many of them, because they're third world and they're poor, we're actually giving them our money to compete with us for those resources. The cost of living is high. That's a big part of why. If we could remove a couple 100 million third world migrants in America that America doesn't really need, if we could rectify, cleanse our corrupt voting system, America would be a superpower like it was immediately after World War II. In the 50s, before we changed all these rules in the 60s and decided, hey, let's just flood ourselves with 7 billion low IQ third world migrants. What could go wrong?
I'll tell you this much: when I'm sitting and talking about the filibuster and why we need to do away with it, I'm continually making the point that the objective of the filibuster was to further good faith negotiation and debate,
and it was supposed to be hard. It was supposed to take effort.
Right, but
you saw the movie with Jimmy Stewart, right? Where he's standing up for like 48 hours in the Senate talking to filibuster some legislation. I don't even remember what the law was in the movie, but that's what you had to do. You had to keep finding people who would talk endlessly. Now it's, what do they call it? The zombie filibuster. We just say it's taking effect. So it's effortless.
Right. Well, what I'm referring to is the element of the filibuster which makes us require a 2/3 vote, or 60, or even 60 now. Right. So what I'm saying is that is not. That is the reason to do away with that is because the objective there is to ensure that the majority would not, that there would be some sort of give back to the minority. The problem is that you have a scenario here where the minority is not arguing based on principle. They're arguing based on the fact that I hate you and I think you're evil. So even though you're saying the same thing I was saying 5 years ago, and you're pushing for something, a policy that I was pushing for 5 years ago, because you're the one who's promoting it, I'm now against it. So this is not trying to have a healthier balance of ideas or come to a decision which is more rational, well thought out, or fairer. It's just a matter of party politics. Of I dislike you as an individual. So even though I promoted this bill, this very bill you're saying you're throwing up today, I promoted this bill 5 years ago. I'm going to fight it to the death because you're the one who's pushing it forward.
Yeah, it's a clever part of leftist propaganda that they make you live by your own rules, right? But in a very distorted way. I see this a lot in the Christian faith. So, like, the Bible says, "Turn the other cheek." Like, that means you're supposed to have rape gangs in England.
Right.
That's not what that means. That means your neighbor, someone who's part of your community, if you have a disagreement with him about something innocuous, you don't turn it into a death march. You turn the other cheek. You let it go. When the Bible says, "Hey, accept the foreigner into your home as a guest," that means a foreigner you've invited in. That doesn't mean an invader of your nation.
Right. Someone coming there looking to rape and pillage your wife and children.
Yeah. And the filibuster is something that's supposed to function within a cohesive country where we basically have 95% the same goals. We differ on 5% of them. So we're going to put a brake on changing that 5% too rapidly. It doesn't work when a substantial percentage of our Congress are foreign-born nationals who are not cultural Americans, who are actually advocating for their home nation.
Yeah, and openly admitting it. Openly admitting that, going out there to these rallies and saying, "I'm Somalia first," or, it's a system that they purposefully broken, and then saying basically, and we have on our side of it, like, well, we have to work with the rules. It's like basically you're walking into a steel cage, no holds barred, fisticuffs, and you're sitting there saying, "I'm going by Queen's rules."
Right. Yep. That's exactly right.
This is how we've always done it. What do you mean? What do you mean? You're like watching some judo guy there, and you're just like, "What's going on here? Why does he have brass knuckles and he's flipping? He's throwing these ninja stars at me?" And you're like,
Branka bought a gun. No, but that's what it's like. We're not a national cohesive family anymore. So those rules that work in families don't work anymore. We've become a culturally balkanized society.
Let me catch up on some of these chats because they've been coming in here, and I'm feeling like I've been neglecting them because you've been too engaging. So I fault you for that. The other angle shows something in left hand for 4 to 5 frames. Too early to tell. Glad to catch a lie. Well, that's why Andrew was like, he doesn't have to have anything in his hand. That thing that looked, what I saw in his hand there, and I was going to show a slow breakdown of it, but Andrew's point here was on point. That he's like, look, if the guy is armed and he's wrestling, you're allowed to kill him. That's what I'm taking from what you said.
And the officer who fired a shot does not need to have perfect information. He's allowed to conduct himself based on the information that's available to him, reasonably processed.
Right. Quite confused. Hopefully we clarify that because he sent that out like 40 minutes ago. So hopefully we clear that up. J.H. Schwabach saying, "Branka, can I bring a condom to a bar fight? Will I be safe? Love you, bro, Joe. Love you, bro, Joe. I just like you."
What kind of bars are you hanging out in, man?
He wants to turn into a pretty popsicle. Nice. Is it Pretti or Pretty? Do you know?
I would say Pretti from my Italian background, but I don't even know if it's Italian. So.
Dan Vicious says, apparently we're bootlickers are calling out violent resistors and the retarded leftists. Managed to try insulting me today. Oh, look at that. Look at that. You won then.
It's probably the most common insult I get is bootlicker when involving any use of force with police.
All right. Heisenberg says, chat mod poll, please. 1, I love all caps. LFG. 2, all caps are okay for emphasis on 1 to 3 words. 3, I don't like being yelled at. Acronym, I don't give a F, but otherwise, no, all caps. Yeah. I'll tell you this. If you're new here tonight, first and foremost, welcome. Please make sure you hit like and subscribe, because otherwise you'll never find us again. And second of all, I'm going to say that my general rule is this. This is my rule for speech. I like having free speech in the chat there. Okay, I much prefer if it's on topic. I know that there's 1 or 2 people. In fact, Heisenberg has brought to my attention one person in particular who is never on topic and just seems to be preaching the gospels, even if I'm talking about I don't know, Coca-Cola. But so that's really not very cool. I have a lot more patience for people who are not talking in all caps, because the 3 rules I have are no racism, no violating YouTube terms of service, and no spam. That's 3 really hands-off rules. If you're not violating these rules, I'm not gonna bounce you out of here. But spam is something that's like, if you're talking in all caps, it starts feeling spammy. So I really prefer if you don't send any posts that are just all caps, especially if it's more than 3 or 4 words. Don't do that. If you have 1 or 2, I'm on board with 1 to 3 words occasionally, and not every post that you just sort of throw out there with all caps. But the all cap chats, to me, I'm like, I tell my mods, if you're seeing someone talking all caps, at a certain point that becomes spam. And spam also is anything that's like the same thing over and over again. And the reason that I have a problem with spam is because I think it's not fair. I think you're sort of taking the conversation, you're trying to take the conversation over in a way that just is not healthy, and that doesn't promote free speech. That's anti-free speech. So that's why I have those rules up there. Soldier promises, don't show up to a protest armed without identification. Do not resist any officer giving you commands. These are good tips. If you're going to be a legal observer, you love how they came up with that new term, legal observer. They're not protesters. I'm just a legal observer.
Do people ask you all the time, Joe, is that a real thing? The answer is no, it's not. It's not a real thing.
They're warning that George Floyd, 26, I guess 2.0. Hope he's not. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a George Floyd, because he's not black, and the racism really does. The racial identity of the victim is highly significant in these factors. Like, as far as just getting the public out there, the weather is a factor. The racial identity of the victim is a factor. Fortunately, so far, the 2 people who died are white, and it sounds sad to say that. But the reality is, as far as the impact that it has on a national scale is far less dramatic, and we've seen that. SCOTUS ruled that the president has to activate the military before the National Guard. I say send in the Marines. They will fix things quickly. They had this on our love. Now they will suffer the winter of discontent. That's true. They did say that. But in order to send in the Marines, you're going to have to invoke the Insurrection Act. So Felser says she should send this letter to all the blue states. Colorado next, please. She should. This is not my receipt. I like that. This is Daniel Weimer's a guy who's here on the regular. Murkowski was elected because they used ranked voting. She's saying that's not the newly registered voters, but it's ranked voting. You're right, Pam. That is how she got in, and Pam is from Alaska. That's how she's a big. She's very on top of the whole Murkowski situation. I think that it's only that much more. She needed to have all those registered voters and ranked voting in order to retain her seats. It's both. She needed both. You're right. She needed ranked voting, but she also needed those newly registered voters. Can a lefty judge block the Insurrection Act? Look, once he invokes the Insurrection Act, you know that they're going to bring an action. They're going to go running to Washington to try to find Judge Boasberg and say, please, stop him from invoking the Insurrection Act. And he probably will.
They'll bring an APA claim.
Yeah, he probably will. And then he'll have an emergency thing where he says, he'll have an emergency appeal to the appellate court. And I think that ultimately will hold up. That's what we should anticipate is almost certainly going to happen step by step. If Insurrection Act, TRO granted by some district court judge, TRO, the injunction stayed while it's being decided by the appellate courts, meaning so now he's able to keep going while they're deciding it, and then the district court judge is overturned. And even if the appellate court says no on it, then the Supreme Court will uphold it. So that's the pattern we've seen over and over again, and I would certainly expect it with respect to the Insurrection Act. I think we.
I just sent out to my because I'm an idiot on social media. It never occurred to me to let my community know that I was here. But I just sent out on X and YouTube that I was hanging out with you, Joe. So maybe the analytics will go up. So hopefully,
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, brother. I think we ought to give Minnesota to Canada in exchange for U.S. getting Alberta. See, that would be a nice. I take that trade every day. I'll take that trade every single day. Jim tells you, said I sent you a raid. If you want to send me a link, I can join for a bit. I want to keep it at, I'm going to see how long Andrew's able to stay here with me. I sort of want to keep it like at 2 for now, but perhaps later. And I appreciate the raid. Thank you so much, brother. I wanted to see you on Thursday. I don't know what happened to you. I guess it wasn't working out for you, but thank you. Hello, Jim tells you, and Andrew. God bless you, Daniel. Thank you so much. J.H. Schwabach, Ranka, you're right. Beef, chuck roast, ground beef, T-bone. If it doesn't go down, Trump goes down. What? Do you know what he's saying?
No.
And Brian Oldenkamp coming in here with hi.
Wow, a Benjamin.
A Benjamin. Thank you so much, Brian. You are awesome. I meant to hit that earlier, but I really didn't want to interrupt Branka's flow. Because, and I'm sure you didn't want me to, but so I'll give you a second time, just a quick one. Because we definitely appreciate the support. Can Congress pass a law saying that federal officers in the course of their listed duties can only be prosecuted by a federal Department of Justice?
Well, that's basically the rule now under Neagle, Henry Neagle, Supreme Court decision. Have you talked about that case before?
No, but you can. I'll let you go.
So I'll just, this is from memory. So if I get, little incidentals wrong, don't blame me. But the general idea was there was a federal judge who was being threatened, and he got a federal law enforcement officer to be his bodyguard, basically. And the federal judge was in fact attacked, and the federal law enforcement officer killed the attacker. But the guy who attacked the judge was someone the state liked, and the state said, "It looks to us like your federal officer killed him unreasonably. So we want to prosecute him for murder." And that's what got to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court said, "We don't care how unreasonable you think the killing was, state, you don't get to prosecute a federal law enforcement officer in the course of his federal duties."
So by that logic, you're saying you would need Congress to overturn that, and basically, in order to enable Minnesota to go after Jonathan Ross.
Could Congress overturn it? I don't know. It was basically
Congress
based on
statute. Congress passed statutes enabling that.
I'm actually not sure, because it's a separation of powers argument, right? It's a privilege of the Article 2 executive branch.
So the question is, would such a statute be constitutional?
Right.
Interesting. Beaumont says the Insurrection Act used sooner would have prevented this death and would have shut down a lot of the unrest. This is true.
But there would have been negative consequences too, right? There's political capital you expend as President Trump if you invoke the Insurrection Act. So that's the balance he's trying to achieve.
And that's why
it may come at the cost of a life of a federal officer.
Yeah. Duckfat says dead guy was carrying 21 round magazines, illegal in Minnesota, 15 is the limit, without his ID, which is required as a CCL holder. A
That's
CBP
true.
agent will be fine. We also have Dominion After Dark rated. Thank you, Dominion. Spicy Sophism says this isn't even the best section. Go on to the next one. If a state is depriving any group of civil rights or anything. He wants me to look at 253.
253. Yeah.
So I will pull that up next, because the more we can educate you guys on the law, the better it is for you. So 253 says, the president, by use of militia, armed forces, or both, or by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress in a state any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy, if it so hinders the execution of laws of that state and of the United States within the state, that any part of a class of its people is deprived of a right, privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution and secured by law, and the constituted authorities of that state are unable to fail or refuse to protect that right, privilege, or immunity, or to give protection. So that's what. So let's just break this down here. So he can use the militia if he's trying to suppress folks. There's domestic violence that's hindering the execution of laws of the United States, because this is the state and of the United States within the state. So which would include the ICE's activities. that any part or class of these people is deprived of a right of privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution and secured by the law. And is, I mean, a class of people, I guess you would say the Minnesota ICE agents, maybe, that they're being deprived of their life, of their safety. So it's secured by law, and the constituted authorities of that state are unable, fail, or refuse to protect that right, privilege, or immunity, or give that protection, or opposes or obstructs the execution of laws of the United States or impedes the course of justice under those laws. And it could be this. It could be that that's what this letter is. What do you think of that? What do you think of that, Andrew?
Yeah, it could be.
That the reason that Pam Bondi sent that letter is to basically say, we gave you a chance to work with us. You're not working with us. You're obstructing the execution of laws of the United States and impeding the course of justice under those laws. And accordingly, that's why we have 10 U.S. Code 253, and we're invoking the Insurrection Act under subsection 2 there.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable take.
Yeah, I think that's likely what's happening. Great job there, Spicy Sophisms. I appreciate you calling that to our attention here, because I think that this is what this statute right here is likely why that letter was sent by Pam Bondi to Tim Walz to say, look, we try working with them. They're not willing. They're completely unwilling. Great call. Duckfat says, nope, Republicans suck. They don't want to win and stay in power in 2026. Also, Joe Schumer announced they will shut down the government next week. I hope so. Because then hopefully we'll see an end to the filibuster. The sooner that filibuster dies, the better off America will be. Dan Vicious says, turn the other cheek means if someone strikes you, turn your face as to strike the other cheek. If they strike again, you're justifying reasonable force necessary. I heard Nick Recato once say that the point to turn the other cheek as he understood it, which this is it's a Christian saying, so I have to take based on how Christians interpret it, that he understands it as show your strength, that you're not bothered or you're not impacted or concerned about the fact that your cheek was struck, that you're willing to expose the other cheek to that person. It's a sign of it's not meaning forgiveness or ignoring it. It's a call to be brave, that even after one cheek has been struck, that you show the other cheek.
I would say it's a call to be mature, not brave. It's like if a child slaps a grown man. The man shouldn't slap the child back, right? You turn the other cheek. You don't respond with all the force that you can. But you do that from a position from strength. You don't do that from a position of weakness. If a burglar kicks in your door and enters your home and is accosting your wife, you don't turn the other cheek.
Right. Here's my daughter too. Yeah. No, I can understand how you can reach either interpretation there.
Jesus also said, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy a sword.
Yeah. Spicy Sophism says, this is amazing. If he feels it's appropriate, he shall take action. Yep. And that's why you can make a claim that this is it. This is it. That's why I think there's a really good chance we're going to see the Insurrection Act this week. I think I'm saying within 30 days we'll see it, and I think as I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, we're going to see it this week. That's what.
I mean, the statute he used before, 12406, to call out the militia, it has a lot of conditions. It's like if there's a foreign invasion, well, obviously that doesn't apply. If he's unable to enforce the laws with the regular forces, it's like, well, what's unable mean? The federal courts were saying, well, if you can do it once in a million times, you're not unable. That wouldn't be my definition. And what's the regular forces? Is it like the regular ICE forces, or is it like the full-blown military?
The Supreme
Court actually said it's the full-blown military.
Retarded. That was the most stupidest thing in the world.
I'm not. I have to be fair. I'm not sure it's retarded, because we like to say things like, I like to say, the 14th Amendment Birthright Citizenship Clause means what the men who wrote it and debated and ratified it meant it to mean. It doesn't mean what we might feel it means now. And when 12406 was passed into law, it should mean what those people intended it to mean. And at that time, when it was passed, we didn't have a large standing army. The regular forces you would have used the army first. The militia was vastly larger than the standing army. So the idea was, hey, if you send in the little tiny army that you keep handy and that doesn't work, then you can call up the militia. And that's not an insane reading of the history of the statute.
Okay, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it makes no sense.
Okay.
The reason it makes no sense is because they did have the Posse Comitatus Act at the time that they wrote 12406. Right? That was the Posse Comitatus Act predates 12406.
But what does the Posse Comitatus say? It says you cannot deploy the military unless you have a statutory reason, right? Authorization to do it. 12406 would in theory be the statutory reason.
Yeah, but they're using it as like, well, you can't do it. This is what they said. I'll pull up here 12406. They said they interpreted what we're talking about here with the last time that he tried when he called up the National Guard and how the Supreme Court rejected him is they interpreted, they said this subsection, this clause 3 says the president is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. So they said, well, what is regular forces? Now, this is not an argument that even that the petitioners who brought this thing.
Right, because they don't want to give Trump an excuse to call out the full-time military. Right, so they didn't make this argument.
They said if the president is unable with regular forces, that means that first, so people interpreted this to mean that, well, if you can't do it with the military and the military, then you need backup for the military, then you need the National Guard. So some people took that as an implication saying, well, that means go call on the military. But if you actually read the decision of the Supreme Court, they say, and since he's not allowed to call upon the military because of the Posse Comitatus Act, that means that there's no circumstance here where you can call on the National Guard. Well, if there's no circumstance you can call on the National Guard, then why the hell would you have this in a statute called National Guard and Federal Service? That doesn't make any sense. In other words, their own logic, because when would you have a case how could you possibly have a scenario that this would actually work if you're going to read the word regular forces, meaning first you have to go through the military and then call in the National Guard and the military is never able to execute the laws of the United States. They're never in that circumstance because because the Posse Comitatus Act says they're not supposed to be enforcing the execution of the laws of the United States within our borders. So in that case, the reason their reading is to me is retarded is because if you look at the rest of this, which is to execute the laws of the United States, and the military is never in that position, then that cannot be a condition precedent. Otherwise, then this never works. Then there's no reason to write this statute in the first place, which means that when you're interpreting what regular forces means here, it cannot mean military, even if it normally means that, because the military could never be in this scenario in the first place. Do you see what I'm saying, Andrew? Why I think that's a retarded read?
I do.
So that's why I think what the Supreme Court was saying there is ass backward and makes no sense at all.
It was a very odd SCOTUS decision to me. It because it almost felt like some of the justices we normally rely on were just tired that day. Like they were like, we'll give him this one.
Yeah, maybe that happens. I don't know. It's possible. J.H. Schwabach says, by the way, Jeremy at D-Day Cobra is highlighting Branca now. 3,000 live view. Will grow by tomorrow. I really want to get you, Joe, and Jeremy together. Told Valiant Renegade, $500 super. If he puts it together, he knows you both. So I don't know.
I'm sorry, Joe. Am I supposed to know? I'm bad with human names. I don't remember people's tag names. So am I supposed to know who these people are?
I assume that Jeremy is from D-Day Cobra, or that's like some pseudonym of his.
I'm not trying to be insulting to these people.
I know. He could be great. He probably is great. If J.H. Schwalbeck is a fan of his and wants us to get together with him, he probably is great. That's what I would assume. But, yeah, I don't know. I guess we can check out and see. I can try and see here if we can find D-Day Cobra. Does that mean he's sniping us? Is that what's happening? I don't even. I'm gonna see if I can find. I don't mind if he is. So I'm very cool.
I don't mind. I'm even happy to counter snipe, but then I have to get paid.
Yeah, this is
Renee Good.
This is D-Day Cobra over here. He is live right now. I don't know if he was sniping us before, but he's just saying Minneapolis is a disaster. And I actually was planning on so yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is. He's got 170,000. So
no, it's a lot.
Yeah, he seems Like he's doing well. The man is doing well for himself. Sanctuary
Of
laws
course,
are
the Krasensteins, those creepy little 2-foot twins.
I had Brian Krasenstein on here once and debated him.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, no, I did. I had an episode where I had him on here. And when I brought him on, he's a lot.
Did you have to zoom in the window?
He was actually, every issue I brought up to him, he ended up basically admitting to me that I was right. Or saying, well, I'm not sure, Joe. Could be. But like, there was nothing, like he was just ceding ground. And
I don't think their business model is based on the merits of the argument, Joe. I think it's based on, whatever hot take they can get clicks on.
It's totally it's a clickbaity thing. That's what the whole thing is. So, yeah, it's frustrating because you feel sort of at this point, I'm at a point with them where I'm just like, I can't even try to pretend that this is meant in good faith with the way that they're interpreting whatever nonsense they're throwing out today. Sanctuary laws are pure sedition and need purged. I'm totally on board with this. This is when we pass the filibuster, the first thing when we get rid of the filibuster, the first thing we should be doing is basically outlawing sanctuary states. I think that there should actually be even a legal issue about this. I don't know how. I guess it depends on the nature of what the sanctuary laws are.
Our federalist form of government, right, says the federal government does certain things, the states do other things. And we have quite a bit of law that says the federal government cannot co-opt the state to work as slaves for the federal government, right? Which kind of makes sense in the federalist order. But here's the thing. It's against federal law to harbor illegal migrants. And that's obviously what these sanctuary territories are doing. The states, they are harboring, they're providing shelter and resources. That's harboring. And harboring an illegal alien under federal law is punishable by execution.
What?
Yes, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, so harboring an alien is illegal. That's the crime. And then the punishment is a function of what that illegal you harbored does.
Oh, okay.
So if he commits a crime, the punishment goes up, the prison sentence goes up. If he causes grievous bodily harm to an American, it becomes a 20 to life sentence. If he goes on to kill an American citizen, even like in a felony murder scenario, an American dies as a result of his conduct, it's capital punishment. Not for him, for the person who harbored him.
And the point that I would make here is, let's assume that instead of it being a sanctuary state, but a state said, we're going to allow you to distribute narcotics in our state, right? So, and to do that and just ignore federal law or any issues with respect to that. We're border states, we're California, we're going to take in, we'll allow you to bring in narcotics from another country and we're totally fine with you bringing cocaine, fentanyl, whatever you want to bring in here. And they said we're a sanctuary for drugs here. And that's their part. We think that the federal government has an ass backward wrong.
No drugs are illegal.
Right. Let's say they passed a law. They said we're a sanctuary for all drugs that, if you're a grown adult and you want to take drugs, that's on you. So now they're willfully ignoring federal law and bringing in, international, via international trade, they're bringing in drugs. I think that that's obviously something that the Supremacy Clause would say, you're out of your mind. That's not you don't have the authority to do that. So that being the case, why would sanctuary laws be any different from that? In what sense, seeing as how immigration law is exclusively the purview of the federal government, on what basis can a state say, well, we don't care what federal law says, we're going to allow them to stay here wherever they want and take care of them? That seems to be something that is so obviously ripe for a court to strike down the legality of a sanctuary city or state that I'm almost surprised that it has not yet happened. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I do have some thoughts. I always have to be careful on other people's shows because I don't want to be too direct and create problems for other people.
Go for it.
All right. So at every first world society in the world it is made up of people who have an average IQ of 100, at least 100, 105. What America has done is we've poisoned our IQ. We've imported people whose IQs are in the 80s and 70s and 60s and sometimes even the 50s. And a republic of the American type does not work for people like that. It requires a minimum. It's like an octane for a high performance car. It requires a minimum 100 IQ. And when you look around or you watch the movie Idiocracy, what that really is about is suddenly the low IQ people took over and everything falls apart. Everything begins to look like a third world country. Why? Because third world countries are the product of third world peoples, are the product of peoples with IQs in the 80s and 70s and 60s. You cannot have a high trust first world society with low IQ people. But we've been importing low IQ third world peoples by the tens of millions. And then we wonder why it seems like America doesn't make logical sense anymore. It doesn't make logical sense because those people cannot reason.
See, I don't look at it. My take on it is that the left has successfully bred a defeatist approach towards what healthy lifestyle is, meaning they've infected our education systems to the point that we now have students and teachers who are basically lockstep in the notion of suicidal type of policies and socialism, communism, DEI, all these different bleeding heart perspectives, which if you think through the ramifications of these policies are clearly something that are self-destructive and are damaging, rather than it being that we just have this flood of low IQ people who we brought in from other countries. I think that
can both be true.
Yeah, of course, both.
Okay.
Of course, both
so
can be true.
I guess what I'm suggesting is you can take, like when you tell a kid, the kid says, "Mommy, can I have ice cream? Can I have an ice cream cone at 4 p.m. in the afternoon?" The mother says, "No, you can't because we're going to have dinner in a couple hours and I want you to be hungry for dinner," right? They're thinking ahead, right? They're thinking ahead. They're not just thinking in the moment. Like if you offered a dog an ice cream cone, he would just eat it, right? He's not thinking about dinner 2 hours ahead.
Right.
You can put those relatively high IQ people through an education system that degrades their IQ functionally for practical matters. Just like you can hit a neurosurgeon in the head with a bat and suddenly he's not a neurosurgeon anymore, right? You can degrade IQ in that manner. You cannot increase IQ. You cannot. It's hardwired genetically into people's minds. So while it's true, I think, that there have been forces aggressively degrading practical effective IQ in normal Americans, we've also imported tens of millions of people Joe, I can show you the map. You look at their national IQs in their nations, and they're in the 80s, 70s. Mentally retarded is 75. The average IQ of India is 76. And of course you can say, well, we would only bring in the exceptional people, but we're not doing that. We're bringing in tens of millions of them.
I would never make that claim.
And when you're bringing in large numbers of any demographic, you have to presume you're pretty much getting the average of that demographic. And the average of the third world demographics are people who are, by American standards, I would say by any standards, mentally retarded. They're at least retard adjacent. And I'm not sure America really needs 100 million or 200 million retards. I don't see how that's in our national interest.
Yeah, that doesn't sound productive. I'm simply saying that the policies we see being effectuated and the people who are purveying these thought out, it seems to be coming from our education centers and propped up leftist ideology, which is invariably think with your heart, not with your brain. So don't think about dinner 2 hours from now. Just think about like, hey, they really want ice cream. So,
it's modern first world society is all about delayed gratification, right? And the achievement of real substance, not just credentials. So we know, and I think part of this is coming for a lot of first world cultures, especially European cultures, is living in a cold climate.
Right.
Because if you don't plan for the winter, you die, right? So all the dumb people die. They didn't save firewood. They didn't save food. They just die. So the only people who are left are the people who could plan ahead. They survive. that doesn't happen necessarily if you're in a warmer climate that has a surface food, you can hunt and gather. It's just everything's good all the time. You're living in Jamaica. It's a party 24 hours a day. And that's why we have these, obviously. So when people, if I were to say Scandinavians tend to be tall and blonde and Somalians tend to be short, dark-skinned and dark-haired, people would say, yeah, okay. But if I say that about IQ, people say, well, you're racist. But all these things are genetically coded.
Yeah.
And deferred gratification is what makes first world society possible.
It's what makes
right, because you accumulate resources, you do long-term planning. We don't deal with each other because we have a long-term understanding of relationships. We don't deal with each other in a fraudulent way. Like, I'm going to rip Joe off. If I can rip him off now, I've made an event. No, I want to make a good deal with Joe because next year we'll make another good deal, and the deal after that we'll make another good deal. And maybe some of the time he'll get a little better advantage, and some of the time I'll get another better advantage. But collectively, we'll do way better working together over the long term than if I just rip him off on this one deal, right? But that's not how third worlders think. Third worlders think, I'm going to seize whatever is in my immediate advantage for myself or my tribe. I can see Joe's wondering if he's going to have a channel in the morning.
No,
Sorry, we can change the subject.
No, I don't mind the subject. I also think that it could be it's partially a cultural thing, like as far as like what's the right thing to do. So like, as far as what's the healthiest approach to take in a particular scenario, I frequently talk about how we tend as Westerners, and I think this may be in other cultures also, but we tend to take a very current day and time location perspective and shove that into whatever location time we're looking at and judge based on our current standards as to what morality actually is, which is such a ridiculously unfair and backward perspective to take. So we saw this over and over again where they would, let's say, be judging Thomas Jefferson as if he was an evil slave owner, even though this guy is fighting to end slavery. But let's rip down statues because he has, he had a black slave child, he had sex with one of his slaves, or he had slaves, even though he literally tried baking into the Constitution, into the Declaration of Independence, that they were going to abolish slavery. Like they ignored the time that he's living in, the economics of where he's living in here, the constraints of what he's living in, or what's happening in the entire world at all, and they slap on a 2020, back then it was 2020, perspective as to his actions and say, oh, shame on you, I'm much more moral than you. Whereas if they were living in that time and place, they never would have had the cojones insight perspective to do a tenth of what he did towards abolishing slavery. And I think that's such an unfair way of looking at things. But it's my point when I brought that up is that folks tend to look at things and make no effort to put themselves into the shoes of the people who are there. So when we look at a different culture, when you look at a Middle Eastern mindset, right, today, I'm not talking about an ancient Middle Eastern mindset, or you look at a Far Eastern mindset, the way they think as to what is right and what is healthy and what's the proper way to approach a situation is very different from a Western mindset. That's not to say that A is superior to B, but it is very different. And
okay, so it is to suggest that. I mean, I would say it's superior. So have you heard the expression sometimes, who Andrew Wilson is? He does a lot of debates. He's on social media. Anyway, a common question he will ask people he's debating.
Is walk don't run guy? Is that the walk don't run?
I don't know
guy?
What that means. So
I know there's a channel, Walk Don't Run, which I thought Andrew Wilson.
It could be his channel. I just don't know.
Right.
But sometimes he'll ask someone.
Guy?
What's that?
Is a beard heavy set guy?
Yeah, I think he has a beard. He's heavy set. He's overweight for sure. You got to lose some weight, Andrew. But a question he'll ask people he's debating with if he thinks they have a low IQ is he'll say, "Hey, let me ask you, how might you feel right now if you hadn't had breakfast this morning?" And of course, anyone of what we would consider normal IQ would say, well, I guess if I hadn't had breakfast this morning, I might feel hungry, right? But low IQ people actually cannot conceptualize the hypothetical. They'll respond by saying, what do you mean? I did have breakfast this morning.
Right.
It's so funny. And that's a function of IQ. And I would suggest the reason the third world develops different cultures, that they don't think ahead, that they don't think broadly, is because you need a minimal IQ to do those first world things. They don't do those things not because they don't want to, not because the choice was presented to them and they chose what I would say is a bad one. They don't do those things because they can't, any more than your dog can plan a retirement account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you haven't met my dog yet, so. Good. Let's read the Constitution too strictly then. Guess that helps a lot of cases get before the court, doesn't it? Birthright. I'm not sure what he's getting at here.
I don't know, but birthright is coming up. Birthright will also determine whether or not America continues to exist as a nation.
Right. And
did you see the article where there's a million Chinese who are technically American citizens because they took an airliner, their mothers took an airliner to the U.S. and popped out the baby on U.S. soil and went immediately back to China. They've lived in China their whole lives, but technically, under the current mistaken understanding of birthright citizenship, they're American citizens. By 2030, there'll be 1 million of them eligible to vote.
They wouldn't even be kept out. Even if he gets through with what he's looking for, because his would only go into effect.
No, you would need a different law, right?
Yeah, you would need a broader law.
Yep.
Good luck there.
Well, no, I will say this: there is American law today. Many people don't know this, but I actually had a relative, an uncle of mine, who was born in Europe to American parents, but they never secured his American citizenship, and when he was an adult, he decided he wanted to come live and work in America. And the American government wouldn't let him. They said, you've been away from America long enough that you don't have a cultural attachment. You weren't born here. Your parents are American, but it's not like you were born on a military base and a year later you came to America and were raised as an American citizen. You were born in Europe. They're technically American citizens, but you were born in Europe. You lived there your whole life. We don't consider you an American citizen. So that kind of precedence does exist, but obviously would have to be enforced.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It seems time consuming when you're talking about 1 million of them, right? Not just Andrew's uncle in Europe, like one at a time, an occasional guy comes in and they say no. When it's 1 million of them, an election is happening in a month.
Yeah, and they'll get all the 70 IQ tards to be screaming, democracy! You're trying to steal democracy!
Oh, it's worse than that. The 70 IQ tards screaming preliminary injunction.
12406, the word between clause 1 and 2 is or. So the president can use the National Guard if there's a rebellion or danger or of rebellion, whether the regular forces are able to enforce the law or not. But that's correct, but he relied on 12406.3. So that was what he claimed. So they're only going to analyze the statute that the subsection of the statute that he invokes. So you're correct that he could have in theory, and then there would be other potential issues with respect to those clauses. But he thought that 12406 subsection 3 was his best bet. So that's what
I think I have to disagree a little bit. I think the courts just said that's what he chose.
No,
because that's the one they wanted to deal with.
I think if you look at his EO, I think he did reference that specifically.
Okay.
I don't think he just said 12406. I think he was actually more specific, but someone will fact check us, I'm sure, on that. So sanctuary state is unconstitutional. Your thoughts? I believe it is. I think it's completely unconstitutional. I think it's a violation of the supremacy clause, if you ask me. But a situation where the Marines couldn't handle the situation, so we need to call in the weekend warriors is retarded.
Yeah, but the issue is when that statute was passed, the standing military was tiny. It was tiny. It was not the military like today. The National Guard was enormously larger. The state's militias were enormously larger than the standing military of the U.S.
Right. I'm drinking the Brondo. Preach, Branko. There you go. It's the thirst quencher.
I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
I prefer Branka's dystopia to the current one. Yeah, well, that would be far preferable. When they make Branka, they unanimously make Branka president for life. we're going to be in a lot better scenario right
There'll be a lot of kosher pizza, Joe.
No, I'm sure. Eclectic Des says, I think that we need to remind ourselves that things like sanctuary laws actually and absolutely affect all states. We don't have border walls between states due to our compact, the Constitution. Sanctuary laws are a betrayal. Look, you're preaching to the choir here. Andrew and I are both on the same page that doing away with sanctuary laws I thought that would happen day one of this administration, honestly. I'm surprised that there wasn't an EEO basically declaring them invalid.
Right. The founders were smart. There were some things that you needed a national government to deal with, and some things were more appropriate for a state with, generalized local police powers to deal with. But one of the things a national government dealt with was foreign affairs, immigration, things that would affect naturally a nation where there was permeability between the states.
Right.
Enforced by the Constitution. Like, states can't say, Andrew's from Massachusetts, so he pays one price for milk, but if he goes to Pennsylvania, he's to pay a higher price in the Pennsylvania to pay for milk. You're not allowed to do that. It has to be transparent. And you can't have that and have permeable national boundaries to immigration. It has to be a national standard.
Yeah. Amazing Disgrace says Joe needs a Branca mug. It's always the same map.
Oh, I'll send you one, Joe, if you want one. Oh, I don't have it here, but it's an IQ map, so you may not want it.
No, why not? I think that'd be awesome. Mattman says, this is why the left rejects a merit-based society. Merit intrinsically promotes higher IQ. Collectivism artificially promotes the worst in the name of equality. That gives you Justice Jackson. Justice Jackson was also in the name of woke policies of let's say that we're doing something of virtue signaling policies. Like, I want everyone to think I'm a good person, so I'm going to say we're going to have a black female justice. This way you think I'm a good person irrespective of whether or not that person has sufficient talent for the position. So
right, so you can have in a society, you can have equality enforced by government, or you can have excellence. You can't have both, because people by nature are not identical. We're not widgets that can all be exchanged. Some people have different characteristics of certain values than others. And I just saw a study on this from China. So China worked very hard when they became a communist nation to make everyone exactly the same. And the moment they loosened the reins and allowed even a scintilla of capitalism to enter, the people immediately spread into a hierarchy. Some people made a lot of money, some people made less money. That's just being a human being. When the Scandinavian countries tried to do this, they said, we're just going to make everyone 100% equal. Anybody can do any job. Most of the women became school teachers and most of the men became pilots and military officers. I mean, people self-organize themselves in natural ways. And if you force them, it just doesn't work.
Force them to become garbage workers, because we need to have a certain quota.
105-pound garbage workers.
Of 105-pound, blonde hair, blue-eyed, female garbage men.
And you can do that. You can enforce that by government mandate if you threaten to shoot people, but not if they're free. If you give people liberty, if you give people freedom, they will self-organize in hierarchies. And by the way, it doesn't make anybody inferior. People make different life choices. Like, typically men make more money. They're focused on making money. Women put value in other things, quality of life, being able to stay home, have a vacation. And so they end up, you don't make money when you're on vacation. So they end up making less money. It's not the system doing that to them. It's just people making different choices.
Right. Well, that presupposes that men and women have natural differences to them, which shame on you. Shame
Should
on
I
you
not
for
do that?
Shame on you for such archaic thinking.
I love your ovaries, Joe.
Thank you. Why are you assuming I don't have ovaries? Oh, God. Yeah, so this is what the left... did I read this one already? This is why the left rejects a merit-based society. Merit intrinsically promotes higher IQ. Collectivism artificially promotes the worst. Let's give it Justice Jackson. The neglect of infrastructure after the colonizers departed is an example of third world thinkers.
Absolutely.
Sent you the TRO that was issued for today's event for you to review. So you sent me something for me to review. You gave me homework where you think I'm like your student. I'm supposed to be sitting here doing what you tell me. This is my show. Sent you a TRO that was issued for today for me to review. This is a federal judge in Minnesota has issued a TRO enjoining Trump administration officials from destroying and altering evidence related to the fatal shooting of Alex Pretti by federal officers.
What theater? Like you need a TRO to do that.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So there you go. Yeah, I don't think they're allowed to just destroy those records. But the point is that they never would have an opportunity to bring him to state court, which makes you question why it is that this is being, it's in the United States District Court of Minnesota. Okay. Yeah, it is theater. It is designed to basically say, you see, we know you're going to be destroying all these records.
Generally speaking, a TRO telling someone, obey the law, is an invalid TRO. I'm sorry, it just is.
Well, the judge that got to sign off on it was Eric Tostrud.
I wonder what he looks like. You got a picture?
That's what it's.
Who appointed him?
Should we try to find out?
This has become one of my favorite games. I see a crazy judicial order, and I just like, who appointed him? It's like 80% of the time it's Biden, 15% of the time it's Obama.
So this over here is Eric Tostrud, and he's 60 years old, and he was nominated by Trump. So there you go.
In Minnesota, though. So that's something people have to keep in mind. Every once in a while, I'll see like a crazy judge, and someone will say, well, he was nominated by Reagan. I'm like, yeah, but in Massachusetts. So every state, there's a doctrine in the Senate, the blue slip doctrine. You have to get the state senators to agree to your nominee. And if you're in Massachusetts or Minnesota, your state senators are liberal. So they'll say no to every judicial nominee you recommend, unless, of course, it's a liberal one. So you find judges that are liberal judges that have been appointed by Reagan or by Trump. Well, they were the only ones that can get through the blue slip filter.
And here's the problem, is that, we have Chuck Grassley, who's unwilling to do away with that stupid blue slip practice. So, and just to clarify here, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term blue slip. So I covered this when we were talking about, I think, Halligan or one of these other attorneys, U.S. attorneys, who were rejected, or it probably was with with Alina Habba, that's Cory Booker. The blue slip practice is that in order for someone to come up for a vote, to be approved. So the process for appointment is, with respect to a U.S. attorney, the way they've been doing it, is first they go through judicial committee. If the judicial committee approves of the nominee, in that case, you need a simple majority by the Senate in order to get it through. If they don't approve, then you need to have a majority of the Senate. Now, normally you're going to get that approval. But then there's the blue slip approval, which comes in front of that. This is an archaic practice that the Senate has had, where they basically turn to the senators of the states when it comes to U.S. attorneys, and they say, hey, what do you think about this nominee that came forward to represent your state or to be a judge in your state? And are you okay with this person? And if either senator says, no, I don't like this person, in that case, they won't bring it up to the judicial committee for them to vote on it. And if they don't bring it up to the judicial committee, in that case, it never gets the next step. You would need a 60 vote majority to get it through, which you're never ever going to get. So Chuck Grassley, who's the head of the Judicial Committee, he's a Republican from Iowa. The man is more ancient than a dinosaur fossil. So he's been there forever. So Trump was pressing him to get rid of this blue slip practice, and he's not willing to do away with it. And what happens is you have Democrat senators like Cory Booker, who says, I don't want freaking Alina Habba, Trump's former attorney, to be the U.S. attorney for the state of New Jersey. So I'm going to reject her. And Chuck Grassley actually gives it the respect that it's not due and says, oh, well, since the senator rejected it, we're not going to have this up for a vote by the committee. And it's never going to move along to get to the Senate for them to confirm. And if it did they bypass them, you would need 60 senators, and that's never going to happen. So basically, Cory Booker ends up skunking Alina Habba's nomination because he just doesn't like Alina Habba. And who's he going to like? He's only going to like some leftists. That's what Branca is getting at here.
Right.
He's only going to approve some leftists. So if you want to approve a judge in Massachusetts, you want to approve a judge in Minnesota, and you have Amy Klobuchar there. Well, in that case, you're going to need to put forward someone who's milquetoast at best, if not a complete leftist, in order to get that approval, because they're still going by this archaic blue slip process.
Yeah, and then some of the federal districts, there's a lot of states, like the 9th district has liberal California and Hawaii and Oregon, but it also has Montana. So, Trump can kind of dilute the liberalism of the 9th Circuit by nominating people from Montana. They have, presumably, they don't really have, but we can pretend for purposes of the discussion, 2 conservative senators and get them in. But the thing is, the blue slip rule, it's kind of understandable in the context of an America where we agree on 95% of stuff and we only disagree on 5%. And what you're really doing with the blue slip rule is you're giving more power to the Senate, right? You're saying, all right, senators, you have a veto power in this realm of government.
Please don't abuse it. A key thing is please don't abuse it because you have a petty grievance.
But it wouldn't be abused on an ideological basis if we didn't have the kind of ideological split we have in the country today, right? People would say, well, I want a fort in Salt Lake City instead of in Provo, right? I mean, that would be the kind of disputes we'd be having. You need to have a fort. We just disagree about where it is. It'd be a 5% dispute. Now the dispute is, do we allow 1 billion third world migrants to just walk into America, or do we deport 200 million of them? I mean, these are profound questions that the nation is now struggling with. You can't do that with the comedy of a blue slip. It just doesn't work. By the way, you can't do it with the comedy of a jury trial either. I mean, we have a lot of data now showing us that when there are people who self-identify not as American, but as members of an ethnic group, they will not convict other members of their ethnic group in a criminal trial. They just won't do it. They're of my tribe. I will not convict them. But if the person's not of their ethnic group, then they're very aggressive about convicting them. That's not a jury trial our founders would have understood.
Right. Did I ever tell you about the first jury selection I ever did? I was working for.
Did they ask if you were a Jew, Joe?
I was working for a PI firm. Okay, so they want. So he goes. So the head of the firm calls me.
So that's a personal injury firm. For
the
public, right?
Right. So the head of the firm calls me in. I won't use his name now, but he goes, Joe, this is what I want to tell you with respect to who you're going to let onto that jury. Okay. I want you to bring on as many Black people, as many Latino people. I said, he's like, I don't want to see on that jury any member of a race that you would not want, that you would be willing to have sex with. That's literally how he phrased. And I was just like, what?
You didn't tell him, sir, have you even met me?
I was like, dude, I'm married. He's like, you know what I'm saying, Joe? He's like, I'm telling you right now, I don't want to see no Italians. I don't want to see no Irish in there. I don't want to see, he goes, that jury needs to be as dark as possible. You understand me? I was like, fine, okay. So because
lawyers, successful lawyers need to understand human psychology.
Yeah. And he's like, you want a big fat number. You want to stockpile that personal injury with a bunch of people who will just throw zeros behind the number. You just want
it's not their money.
It's not their money, and it's like, oh yeah, just throw those zeros out there. So, yeah, that was the first lesson I got on jury selection in the real world.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a study just today or yesterday, a psychological study where they had people like give electrical shocks to other people or observe it. It was observed being done. And that people are being shocked and everybody was like, oh my God, that's horrible. And then they were told, the subjects of the study were told, well, this person actually stole money or something, did something bad. And all the men in the study were like, oh, well, then he deserves it. And all the women in the study were like, Oh, it's still horrible. So imagine having those two different psychologies on a single jury and pretending a jury verdict is some kind of cohesive finding of justice.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan Fisher says, watching D Cobra and Good Logic hit the goal. Great show, Joe and Andrew. Good night, everyone. And Uzani says, since you didn't see it the first time, Joe, check locals for what my theory is. Check locals for your theory. His theory is, well, Jay Schwalbeck says in locals, Joe, have a guest. Having a guest doesn't mean you stop taking or reading super chats. It should be a time to read chats. Your guest will generate more chat money. You're correct, and I do read super chats. I just sort of push it back, try working the time in.
It's my fault, folks. I tend to talk a lot and get kind of bossy and overtalk people. It's just my nature. Sorry about that.
Uzelian's theory says, my theory is simple. The gun in the picture is a SIG P320. This gun is known to fire on its own and was the one the military used until it killed someone. It disarmed him, and when pulling it away, it discharged, and the agent didn't know it, so he shot and killed him. Interesting.
I doubt that's true. I will say this. I personally own a lot of those pistols. I own at least 5 SIG 320 pistols. And I personally won't fire them anymore because I think they're dangerous. So I just, they sit in my safe. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. I might have to eventually just grind them up and throw them away.
Okay, we have also, I want to try and move through here. John Jolene says, if you keep badgering AI with prompts, the answer keeps changing. This is true. You can manipulate AI that way.
So I'll tell you a funny story about that. It actually happened to my church just last Sunday. My pastor was giving a talk and he said, I asked AI, my pastor says, like, what are the jobs that are safe from AI in the future? Like if I'm advising my son, what career should he go into, that would be safe from AI. And the artificial intelligence came back to him and said, well, jobs like being a pastor, where you have a personal relationship with people, that AI couldn't replicate. And my pastor said, I was so suspicious about this that I reached out to my sister, who's an atheist and a lawyer, and I asked her to pose the same question to AI, and AI said, well, the most protected jobs will be lawyers who have a personal relationship with their client. So, yeah, watch out, folks. AI is a lying MFer.
They are. It is totally AI. The only reason I still use AI is because they start every answer with like, "You are so brilliant, Joe. Thank you for asking that question." That is the most insightful question anyone has asked AI today. Let me get back to you with an answer in 30 seconds as I process.
So I used it today after I did a live stream on the shooting in Minnesota, and I was rushed because it had just happened. And I went to Grok and I said, just give me a summary of what happened. And it did. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, this feels like half bullshit to me, But I used it anyway. But I told my audience, listen, I got this summary from Grok. It looks like half bullshit to me, But I just didn't have time to actually research everything. So
yeah,
I think AI has its uses, but don't ever believe it's telling you the truth. It's like AI always looks you in the face and says, "I'm not like all the others." No, you are.
Richard Parker says, "How is it that we only have 7 of 15 for the goal, and I've seen way over $250 in donos?" I'm going to tell you, Richard Parker, I am declaring goal met. Okay, I am declaring our goal met. I will be doing, God willing, a show tomorrow. I understand. I'm with you. I think there's been a lot more than 7, and you guys have been very engaged and asking some really awesome questions. So yeah, I'm declaring goal met. Tonight's goal was 15 super chats at $10 or more. That I'm going to do a show tomorrow. I will, God willing, be doing a show tomorrow evening. Because
we have to have hit that, right? We didn't hit that.
If I actually go through the numbers, I think we're very close. For one reason or another, I don't know why. The goal normally is very good at counting, but it is showing 7 out of 15, and that is totally inaccurate. I counted at least a dozen. So, and some of them,
you got $100,
right?
Dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. and when I get larger ones, I tend to count that as like, I don't count it as like 10. I'll sort of count it as like 3 or 4 or 5. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna try to get to the goal. My objective is not to be like, ha ha, you fell just short, screw you. That is never my goal. Let me go on record.
That would be a very low IQ, low trust, third world way to approach things.
Yes. My goal is when I set a goal up, the objective is that, I'm trying to stimulate people to become engaged with the show. I prefer having more people come in and talking, and it gives me feedback. I think it makes for a more engaging, entertaining show. My goal is not to be like, wow, you just missed it. Oh, well, sucks for you. And now I'm not going to do that. That's never my goal. So that's why if we get close, or I see that there's some donation where someone's donating, gifting people out there, so I'll try to count that. Whenever we get close, I think you've seen every single time that we've gotten anywhere in the ballpark that I've basically been like, okay, that's we've met our goal. But if sometimes we don't really get very close at all to the goal, and that's why I'm like, okay, so we don't get close to the goal, I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, when we're in the ballpark, I'm gonna, especially if there have been generous chats like we've seen tonight, I'm always gonna give it to you. So yeah, even if you didn't send this in here, I would have counted this goal as being met because you guys are great. So JD Delay checked out your video tonight, Andrew. Glad he watched you since you're fantastic on self-defense. That's the only thing he's really any good at is self-defense. But he's great there. He's great at that. So
hey, I've got 2 wives and 4 kids. I'm good at other things. I mean, one of the wives is gone, of course, but only one at a time. But
look at this. I got a
Who is JD Delay? Who's that?
I don't know. I don't know. Should we look up JD Delay, see if he's like if he's anything?
Some kind of creep.
Yeah, let's see if JD Delay is anything special.
I'm not trying to say anything negative about the guy. I just don't know him, but
yeah,
it's a weird thing when your profile gets higher and a lot of people you don't know start referring to you. It's like you never know,
dude. JD Delay has 1.7 million subs.
Oh my god, that's awesome! All right, I love him now.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, no, this guy 1.7 million subs from
Hey
Career
JD,
Criminal.
clip this.
There you go. JD Delay. He's all over it. God bless this man. Well done. So I'm shocked that someone who's got a trans flag in here sent me any kind of money at all. Kudos to you. Good on you. Good on you indeed. And look at this. Clam gifting 10 new members of the following 10 people. I'm just going to call out real quick who we brought on in here to the following, just so you can express your gratitude to him for bringing you into a gathering of like-minded individuals who are seeking greater personal growth through community unity, learning, and thinking. And that would so please, if you can express your gratitude to Clam for this amazing gift, which is probably life-altering, that would be appropriate. And I'm including you, Ken Krause, AZ Merce, Not That Karen, Garrett Pay, Psychology of 9, Shell, JM Sparger, Susan Winscheitel. That's a name I haven't seen in a while. Trinise and Terry Irwin. Welcome to the following. Please bear in mind that I am not at all the host. I am the leader of the following. I am just a host. That's definitely where we're going with that. Branka, you're the best when Joe isn't around.
What?
That's
He's
not
around.
That's not cool of you. I did promise
that
my
sounds
audience,
like a threat.
I did promise my audience that I was going to spend some time checking out these different live. I call this like a live show, and I feel like people are going to look at me saying, you're supposed to be doing like live coverage of like riots that are happening in Minnesota or in Los Angeles or Portland. So I do feel like I sort of want to get to that. Our show took a little bit of a different turn.
You kicking me out, Joe?
I'm not.
It's
no,
okay.
I'm not kicking you out, but I do want to get some live coverage. And if you want to step out as I'm doing this, I'm totally understand. I appreciate you gave me 2 hours of your time.
Totally fine. I know how to not overstay my welcome. It's been great, Joe. I always love coming on your show, and
you're amazing. You're
interacting
amazing
with your audience, and It's been a lot of fun. I hope to do it again. I think the last time I did it was a week or two ago, right?
Yeah, you were in here a couple of weeks ago, and I'll tell you right now, like you were very helpful. I knew you would be helpful. I wasn't going to ask you to come in here because I just sort of feel like I'm asked. I don't like asking of my friends, but I was curious about your take on this. So I appreciate you coming in here and explaining to me why this is something that there's not even probable cause that the guy's guilty. So I appreciate that.
Well, let me tell you this, Joe. I never mind you asking me to come on. Often I can't because I have other obligations.
You
so
work. You're like Sammy Davis Jr., the hardest working man.
I work like 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I find a moment to relax, and I just sit in my super comfortable chair, and I open up my laptop, and holy shit, Joe Neerman's live. And that's when I send you a super chat, and this happens. But
cool.
Don't hesitate to ever invite me. If I can't make it, I'll just let you know, and if I can, I'll jump on like now.
Always appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Hey, I had a great time here. Have a good
you guys
weekend,
make sure you
everybody.
check out the Andrew Branca show. Make sure you check this guy out because he's not just the preeminent voice on self-defense law in this country, but he actually now has a kick and take on politics when giving you his take on things for as long as YouTube lets him. Which is probably not much longer.
I tell you, Joe, every morning I wake up and I see my YouTube channel is still there. I'm like, I can't believe it.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. Have a good night. Take care. Thanks, Joe.
Make sure you check me out. If you can send me a link before you get on out of here. This way
Joe, I just clicked the button.
That's all right.
Can I unclick it?
You click the button.
All right. What link do you need?
Just a link for your channel. This way, I'll just sort of throw it in my description.
Oh, just tell people it's right there. The Branca Show. Just
the Branca
every
Show.
Platform, it's the same. The Branca Show. Yep.
Take care, my brother.
Have a good night. Take care. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. That's legendary Andrew Branca, who's not just a talented creator, but he's an awesome guy who's an excellent, amazing friend. So I'm really glad that he was able to pop on in here and grace us with his perspective on law of self-defense as it relates to this particular shooting. Because, he's based and awesome. So I'm going to put a link in here. Check out the Branca Show. I want to just update my description here. So this way, otherwise, if I don't do it right now, I'm totally going to forget. Branca Show. And look at him kicking it with 276,000 subs. That's my guy. All right, copy that. And while you're here, if you could hit the like and subscribe button, that would be awesome. I would be much obliged for that. All right, that's now saved in the description. In fact, I'm going to pin it in the chat over here. So this way, those of you who don't know where to find the description, there might be one or two of you out there who just got easily confused. Don't want you to miss out on his hot takes. Just got easily confused. See, there you go. All right, so we're going to pin that in the chat here. And no, I'm not doing the Rumble one. I'm going to just link you on Rumble to to his YouTube channel. I'm sorry I missed you the first time, Uzeli, and I didn't mean to miss you. That wasn't it. And I'm also sorry to you, JH, if you felt I was pushing you back. He does dominate the conversation in a way that just makes it difficult to interrupt sometimes. I've seen that with him. I sometimes be like, I'm sort of waiting for my moment to like get a word in because he's just a very effervescent personality in a way that's awesome. But makes it hard for me to just jump in onto chats without feeling like I'm diverting everything. Dan Vicious saying at the Crucible. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that. I don't know what to do with that, Dan. But yeah, my phone died while I was in the VFW. I'm home now and still drinking, but I didn't hear you address my previous super chats. Cliff notes for your previous super chats. What did you say to me? You said SCOTUS rule the president has to activate the military before the National Guard. I say send the Marines. They will fix things quickly. They had their summer of love. Now they will suffer their winter of discontent. This is what he had sent earlier. He also sent another one. don't show up at a protest armed. We totally agree with you on that. On this one, I said that I didn't really read that decision the same way you did, saying they has to activate the military first. I think they were saying, and since he can't activate the military, therefore it's not good. So a lot of people read it the way you said that decision, the way you're reading the decision, a lot of people read it that way. I personally did not read the majority as saying that. I looked at them saying he would have to send the military, and since he can't, before he can send the Marines, before he can send in the National Guard, and since he cannot send in the military, therefore, there's no scenario here we can send in the National Guard. And I was like, well, by that logic, then there's no reason to write the statute in the first place, which makes your whole read of it stupid. And we had a lengthy conversation about where I pretty much convinced him, because he was defending the Supreme Court's read of it, and I basically showed how illogical it was. So I think he ended up coming around to it, to my take on it. So that, I think, is the best breakdown I give you as to what we discussed with respect to those particular chats. Live riots. Let's do a search that way. This is not it. I want to find live riots here. I found a bunch of links earlier. What is this? This is not what I want. Oh, there's me. All right. That's not helpful. I want people on the ground there. See if anything's happening, anything exciting. This feels like more like I'm at a bazaar than I'm at a riot here. Like, oh, look, they're having a sale on plates. This doesn't feel very rioty to me. Just me. Maybe it's me. I don't expect there to be expensive china at a riot, unless it's being thrown. So this isn't feeling very rioty to me. I don't know what we're watching here. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Are you guys feeling it? This is a very low energy riot. Let's see if we can find something better. Is this live?
Y'all want to let the fucking press through so they can document what you're doing?
Where are we?
Because y'all fucking killed another person?
Y'all wearing masks because you know what you did is wrong.
Yeah,
you know what
that's
you're
why.
doing out here is wrong.
That's why.
Shame on you, bro.
Yeah, that's why.
Coward ass motherfuckers.
Fuck you guys.
Your mother should have swallowed you, bro. Straight up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, I always have a great conversation with him. It's just when I'm when I'm solo, I find it much easier for me to, or even if I'm with a producer who's sort of like a smaller channel, I feel like at any time I can just sort of dominate and just sort of be like, okay, I need to cover super chats now. And when I have Andrew in here, because he gets so engaged and he gets so ratchet up in some of the stuff that he's bringing, it's harder for me to just sort of be like, hold on, let me go to super chats right now. So there'll be a longer gap there, and I can understand how that's likely frustrating to people. And I feel badly about that, but I assume people know that, but that is just naturally what's going to end up happening. Not seeing much happening here. So I'm not feeling this, being frank with you. I'm almost feeling like I'll be like less bored if I'm trolling the chat.
Y'all got kids too?
Like with things like Ice are Heroes, one and all.
They killed somebody again? They probably did.
Hey, take it easy, Payload. You're by yourself over here. Fucking bitch. Back the fuck up. And tell all of them to back the fuck up, too. Come back over here. Hey, for your safety and ours. Take them badges off.
The chat goes so fast.
Hey, man, if you're gonna pace, at least good step for us. You fucking.
Why did my chat disappear?
Bro, y'all got no morals, man.
Oh, now I'm bored. Now I'm bored all over
Where's your
again.
humanity at, bro? That paycheck with your humanity?
See, I don't know what people get out of this.
I bet your whole family's ashamed of you. Ain't nobody coming to your funeral.
All right. So I'm running out of patience here very quickly. Let's see if we find anything more interesting than this. Let's see if we can find something better than this. That was closer to what I was thinking of, but I sort of wanted to see like something happening.
To feel
This is obviously not live because it's dark throughout the country.
Fuck 12! Fuck 12!
I'm feeling like there's not much happening in the world right now. Yeah, the whole Northeast is supposed to be getting a ton of snow. I'm up in the Northeast, and we're supposed to be having like a foot of snow. It's supposed to be starting imminently. I'm in northern Jersey. It's not snowing yet. Are we getting at 5 a.m.? Yeah, it's 1:35 here. For who? For who? Yeah, okay. So I'm not really getting much out of this. Just saying. Not really much happening there. And I do have other stuff that I wanted to cover with you. So maybe we'll check back in and see if we get luckier that there's like something actually happening. I am going to send a link to Jim, because I feel bad that he wasn't in here on Thursday. So I'm going to send him a link if he wants to pop on in here. I don't know if he's going to see it. I don't know if he's still around, but I will send him a link. Let me do that real quick, Jim, and I'm going to get to the rest of my coverage of this, of today's shooting, and also updates about Don Lemon that I planned on covering with you. So. Okay. We should be getting to like 1,000 likes. That's really what the goal is. My goal is 1,000 likes. We should be having 1,000. We should really be hitting 1,000. Just surging past 1,000. I got like what, 1,500 of you watching? 1,300 watching. Yeah, we should definitely hit 1,000. All right. So let me get to the rest of my coverage on this stuff that I had to put aside. Let's talk about Kirsty Noam and her appearance today, because she was active, and yeah, I definitely want to cover some of what she was talking about today. First and foremost, this part, as far as like how insane these anti-ICE people are, in case you didn't hear about this.
Of protesters then showed up at the scene. They began to obstruct and to assault law enforcement officers. We saw objects being thrown at them, including ice and other objects, and a rampant assault began, and even an HSI officer agent's finger was bitten off. Crowd control
They bit off an HSI agent's finger.
measures were deployed to bring safety to the public and to law enforcement at the scene. And once again, I want to remind everybody that this situation and this tragedy did not have to happen. Our law enforcement are doing everything that they can to protect the public. Of protesters then showed up at...
They bit off a finger. Insane people. Insane people. I don't really have like something of hers that's... I don't have a good order on this. On the Kirsty Noam. I got a bunch of clips of hers, and there might be some overlap. I apologize in advance for that.
Yes.
You just made claims that the individual posed a threat to law enforcement. I guess
That is no claim. It is the facts. The facts of the situation. This individual showed up to a law enforcement operation with a weapon and dozens of rounds of ammunition. He wasn't there to peacefully protest. He was there to perpetuate violence. And he was asked to show up and to continue to resist by a governor who's irresponsible and has a long history of corruption and lying. And we won't stand for it anymore. These law enforcement officers take an oath. They get up every single day and they go out to protect the public. Many of these yes.
You just made
And that doesn't even take into effect the fact that the guy was resisting while armed. Been snowing here in Kansas since Friday evening. Brutal single-digit temps. Yeah, it was 8 degrees this morning here in Jersey. It was crazy. Crazy. It was insane. It was just, yeah. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with Ami Horowitz. Why are you telling me that? I'm left wondering that all night, Soldier of Providence. Why did he tell me that? So this I think we covered.
This individual impeded the law enforcement officers and attacked them. State the facts as they unfolded on the street today. We were doing a targeted operation against an illegal criminal, and this individual came with a weapon and dozens of rounds of ammunition and attacked them. And these agents took action to defend their lives and to defend the lives of the people around them and acted according to their training. And we will continue to let this process go forward and not allow people like Governor Walz and Mayor Frey to lie about what actually unfolded on that street. Now they have deemed this situation an unlawful assembly, and these leaders aren't even cleaning up the situation that they have as far as the violent riots that we see unfolding in Minneapolis right now. They need to be strong, take action, protect their citizens, and partner with us to go after these criminals that perpetuate violence and to keep our law enforcement.
And that's really the key, which is what Pam Bondi was saying in her letter. You need to partner with us. Enough of your whole stomping your feet and kicking, we don't like ICE, we don't like ICE. You need to partner with us. We're at that point now.
Officers safe. Let's all be grateful for people who take an oath every day and they go out to enforce the laws. That is their job, is to enforce the laws and to make sure that there is consequences for breaking the law in this country and that it applies equally to everybody. That is what they do. They do it every day. They do thousands of operations every single week, and they do it with excellence. Don't let political corrupt leaders who are just trying to cover up their theft of American taxpayer dollars try to distract you from the facts of the situation.
She's really coming to her own in this role, no? 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 Here's, in stark contrast, In stark contrast, this is the Minneapolis police officials giving their updates and showing their utter incompetence.
If I can ask you, this is a statement from Tricia McLaughlin, spokesperson for DHS. She said in her statement, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Seen here, they showed a picture of it. The officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted. More details on the armed struggle are forthcoming. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid. Is that what happened?
So, in case you couldn't hear, because the audio is muted because she doesn't have a mic by her, she's saying DHS is reporting that the guy was armed and that they were trying to deal with him when he was armed and he's got this gun on him. So, what's your take on this?
So, Minneapolis police, the question was, you read a statement from DHS saying that a weapon was presented and there was attempts to disarm the person. Again, like I stated earlier, Minneapolis police, as well as our supervisors, our watch commander responded to the scene. We were not provided any public safety statement around the incident, what happened. We have since seen a video that is circulating on.
So we know nothing. We know nothing you don't know. All we have are the same videos you guys have. We don't know. We have no idea. Why are we having a press conference? I have no idea. What information can you share on this? Nothing. I know nothing. I came out here because I know nothing. And they came out, so I come out here and make the official Minneapolis statement to you. The city of Minneapolis knows nothing. And we have no control over the situation. We weren't able to secure the area. It's now being overrun by people that we don't have control over the whole situation. I can't even tell you anything about what's happening here, and I don't know anything. What use are you? How are you more useful than any other idiot? How are you more useful than some protester who was in a different part of the city when the shooting happened? How are you any more useful than that?
Line like thousands of other people have at this time. So we do not know.
I don't know anything
prior to the recording that is online right now. I immediately called for the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension to respond to conduct an investigation. They are on the scene. I believe the FBI is on.
You can't do anything about it. They're federal agents and the function of their duties as federal agents. You have no authority over them. So why do you have more of a right to it than the state of Idaho? Why? You have no jurisdiction over them. So if you have no jurisdiction over them, what the hell are you why should you get access to it?
Scene as well. But I think the video speaks for itself. What I can tell you is we have identified.
There's a dignitary in Indonesia who wants access to it also, but he also has no jurisdiction over federal agents.
This person, 37-year-old white male, resident of the city. The only interaction that we are aware of with law enforcement has been for traffic tickets, and we believe he is a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry.
Lawful permit to carry. Not that many bullets. You never got a permit for that. No one's got a permit for that. Not that many bullets. In stark contrast to the idiots from the Minneapolis police, here's Greg Bavino weighing in.
It looks like that the news conference is happening now.
Federal law enforcement who have been under constant
Gotta cut her mic.
in Minneapolis for weeks now. This morning was no different. At 9:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien, Jose Huerta Chuma. You can see this illegal alien.
It's all Chuma's fault.
On the screen to my left and right, that is Jose Huerta Chuma, whose criminal history includes domestic assault to intentionally inflict bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license. During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene.
Yeah, that guy had a lot of
suspect
worry lines.
also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Then, about 200 rioters arrived at the scene and began to obstruct and assault law enforcement. Crowd control measures have been deployed for the safety of the public and law enforcement. This situation is evolving and more information is forthcoming. The officer was highly trained and had been serving as a Border Patrol agent for 8 years.
See, this is someone who understands what happened, why they were there, why this guy was apprehended, why we had this conflict, how he was armed. This is someone who actually has information to provide the press as opposed to the Minneapolis police.
The officer has extensive training as a range safety officer and less lethal officer. As mentioned, this is only the latest attack on law enforcement. Across the country, the men and women of DHS have been attacked, shot at, doxxed, had their family members threatened. And as we have seen more than 100 vehicle rammings over the past year against federal law enforcement. We will not allow violence against our law enforcement officers, and we need state and local help, state and local law enforcement, to help us coordinate to get violent criminals off.
Oh, this is the video that Soldier of Providence is talking about, where he says, "Look it up. Army went to protesters, raised $200 in 30 minutes in order to do violence." I have a link, but I don't know how to send it. Just search. Let's. I got it here.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in Minneapolis covering the ICE protests. How bad is it? Do you think I can raise money to murder ICE agents? Let's find out. As always, subscribe below. I want to raise money for weapons. I want to go after ICE. We need money for weapons, for bombs. We need to fight back against these animals.
I'm with you.
We need to tear them apart, literally, not figuratively.
Do you want me to get off live while you talk about this?
Yes. Guns, explosives, that's the kind of language they understand, and that's what we need to do. If you feel me.
Yeah, 100%. This is just not working.
You feel me?
I feel you.
And that takes weapons, and that takes explosives, and that takes blowing shit up. You know what I mean?
Yes. Okay, it's a GoFundMe. That's how it's money.
It's a GoFundMe. We gotta fucking kill these motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? We need to go after these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to hurt them. We need to kill them. I think we have to start killing people, man. Frankly.
Right.
I think that's the only way for us to get the message across, because let's be honest, saying F you, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, literally.
Exactly. They're just like, look at these guys wasting their time again. I know what you mean.
In order to create peace later, we need violence now. I mean, we can't allow the law enforcement to enforce laws.
I get it.
I mean, I'm kind of a broke college student, but like I'll donate like 10, 20 bucks.
Not very much. I'm a student. Maybe like $50.
15 bucks?
Maybe like $50 per.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bless you. Bless you.
Oh, we rather only like $20.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being out here too.
Take care. I appreciate you. Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love, brother. Take care. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. The peace and love only lasted 28 minutes. I received a text from my security team that they realized what I was up to and we had to get out. In less than half an hour, I raised nearly $200 to murder federal agents. Not a single person objected to what I was doing. Not one.
Yeah. Not surprising at all. Nothing about that story is surprising. Those people should be prosecuted. Basically, it's murder for hire. Those people are committing a crime. Unbelievable.
It looks.
It's unbelievable. I mean, they're so stupid, these protesters, some of them. So it's not surprising. Here's more stupidity from protesters.
Yeah. Look at them. Look at them. The ICC guys, be careful. Be careful. They're over here.
It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Why are you taking my information down?
Because it's not illegal for me to record you.
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist. So
We're videotaping you? Are you crazy?
We can record you right back. We can record you right back. You legal observer? I'm legally observing you. I'm legally observing you. That's what they need to do. They think the camera is such a weapon. Use the camera back on them. I think it's a great move. I don't know if I tell the woman she's a domestic terrorist for filming, but I don't agree with that. And they've confirmed that they've been subpoenaed, these folks.
Should be asking is the mayor, the governor, and the attorney general have all confirmed that they have been subpoenaed to come in front of a criminal federal grand jury. So they are covering up and are being in a part of a system where they are going to be brought to justice for anything that they had to do with this investigation. They have confirmed they've been subpoenaed, and they will be in front of a grand jury to get that criminal investigation unfolding and to disclose the kind of fraud that they have allowed to happen. Should be asking.
So that's a nice step in the right direction. That's a development we didn't know about. And you want to know how tied Tim Walz is to these people? Let's take a little look as to how tied he is to them. Huge. Tim Walz, campaign strategist, is one of the admins for the Signal paramilitary group. Arrest these commies. Codenames HAH. Meet Amanda Noel Kohler, one of the admins of the Minnesota Ice Watch Signal chat group. She believes that property damage isn't violence, was a campaign strategist for Tim Walz and organizes a lot of the protests and walkouts in the area. That's the deranged little woman right there with her chickens in a coop with chickens. That's her. Amanda Kohler, consulting, self-employed, owner-operator of Maple Urban Farm. There she is, the strategist with Tim Walz. Here's an admin list for several chats. Cam Higbee is in these chats, spying on them. There's Amanda Kohler in there. So this chick is, he's directly working with them, Tim Walz, or people who work with him are the admins. So how much more linked can he be besides running the chats themselves? I want to take a look with you at some of their activities here. Direct connection of Ice Watch Network to Tim Walz administration. All relevant links, evidence will be on the last several posts of the thread. Thanks to the great work of undercover work of Cam Higbee, he revealed today that one of the leaders in organizing these violent anti-ICE riots is a woman named Amanda Kohler. We found this write-up of Amanda Kohler's LinkedIn. As you can see, she references an ICE Watch organization called Monarcha. This is from the Minnesota government website, Office of Ombudsman for Families. Notice that they listed Monarcha as a resource. Salute as a strategy. What is salute as strategy, a tactic? And I mentioned the word salute as an acronym that they on Thursday, I think. It was Wednesday or Thursday. a tactic in which ICE Watch networks train rioters. So these people are not, these people, they're trying to train them to make them effective as to how they can work as a network to try and attack ICE. We literally have the Minnesota government and Tim Walz's administration partnering with domestic terrorist ICE Watch networks to impede ICE from deporting violent illegal aliens. This is straight up treason, and Governor Walz needs to be arrested. Here's Amanda Kohler saying this is not hyperbole. Minnesota's under siege right now. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger for you. Let's make this bigger. This is what this crazy bitch writes. Okay. I had the honor of spending the last 15 days temporarily co-managing the Monarca Rapid Response Line, a 24/7 immigrant defense and support hotline, so that the UNIDO's Minnesota staff can take a well-deserved holiday break. It's been incredibly clear that the presence of federal agents in the Twin Cities and state of Minnesota has multiplied significantly in recent weeks, and according to the news, it's only going to get worse. The Minnesotans are organizing. Tens of thousands of community members have been trained to be constitutional or legal observers, patrollers, dispatchers, rapid responders, and nonviolent direct action takers. There are dozens of, if not over 100 networks of hyper-local patrols, rapid responders, and mutual aid. This is what you call an insurrection. This is an actual insurrection. Responders, nonviolent. Neighborhoods are canvassing businesses and multifamily housing buildings to help business owners, workers, and landlords understand their rights and help them make plans. Thousands of volunteer community members are dedicating significant time to protecting their neighbors. The last few weeks have been heavy and nonstop, but I'm so proud of my community. We may not always be able to prevent or stop an abduction, but we certainly can slow them down. Harm reduction keeps families together. This is what this lunatic writes. This is Amanda Kohler. And she gives her phone number here. So what is salute? What is that? Information from the Immigration Law Center of Minnesota. Know your rights. Supporting families and strengthening communities since 1996, the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota offers the following information resources for immigrants, refugees, and protesters in Minnesota. One of them being this Monarca Rapid Response Line. If you're in the mood to call them, feel free. 612-441-2881. When documenting activity, remember, salute to gather information. Size. S stands for size. How many people and or vehicles are present? Activity. What specifically are they doing? Location, address, nearby cross streets and landmarks. Uniform. What are they wearing and what identifications do they have? Time, date, and time observed. And E is for equipment. What weapons or devices are they carrying? If you or somebody you know is Team ICE, call ILCM on Mondays from 2 to 4 p.m., on Thursdays from 1 to 3 p.m. That's not very extensive hours. To obtain general information about immigration court proceedings as well as services that the Minnesota Detention Project can provide. And this is part of CARE Minnesota. Of course it is. CAIR, CARE. This is the Minnesota government site, Office of Ombudsman for Families. Okay. Notice that the download PDF links on the bottom of this page contains nothing. The Monarca site is just a shell. They're only meant to interfere with ICE from deporting violent illegal aliens, and they partner with Governor Tim Walz's administration. The incredible thread detailing Cam Higby's undercover work in infiltrating single chat groups that ICE Watch networks use to coordinate. This is the thread. We'll come back to that. This is salute as they outline it. See this post by Pepe's grandma on another radical organization that uses salute. So that is their official methodology here. A couple of posts from Amanda Kohler is found on threads. I don't personally consider property damage violence. ICE has been very moving fast in many cases. Been very moving. Patrolling the best way we can, respond, and even stumble upon them. Just by showing up with a camera and whistle can prevent a kidnapping. If not, it's crucial to document their activity, including who they take. Thanks to Pepe's grandma for pointing this out. On the same government site above, they also listed terrorist organization CARE as a resource. Just how many destructive organizations has Governor Tim Walz's administration partnered with? And the same Monarcha butterfly logo during a Minnesota riot. The same ICE Watch network we just showed that Walz's administration partnered with. Look at that. Let's see this thread here. From Cam Higbee saying, I've been undercover inside the group for days. You'll notice emojis next to people's names. Here's a key for what those emojis mean. The highlighted positions are the most crucial. Most are self-explanatory. Mobile patrols spend their entire shift searching for suspicious vehicles. When they find one, they send it to the group so that plate checkers can compare with their database and see if it's a known federal vehicle or if the patrol can make the confirmations that the databases can be updated. Dispatch runs a maxed out call all day telling protesters where ICE has been spotted and how they can be best impeded. They're working hard. Minneapolis signal infiltrated for each occupation or shift position. Protesters have to undergo training. It's unclear what the training entails on the numerous slides of instruction. I've seen it mentioned repeatedly. Who's paying for all this? These are good questions. It's probably government funded. Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Each chat for a specific part of each city has similar districts broken up with what they call patrol zones, which guide ICE chasers on where they should be positioned. Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here's a screen recording of their plate database as well as a link to its instructions. Look at this. It's unbelievable. Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here's a screenshot of the active dispatch call. It's always active as well as a shift change. You can see folks are changing their emojis, clocking in and out. I'll also attach below a video of dispatch actually tracking the vehicle I was in, claiming that we were confirmed ICE. They constantly misidentify vehicles. Pay attention to emojis tagged on plate checks. So these are the different emojis that they put on. I don't know what the dinner is or whatever. Okay.
White Chevy Silverado with the newly changed plates with the coexist sticker on the back. We're on Irving and Lake Street going north on Irving. We seem to be the only commuters following. Just wanted to give an update on our location.
Thank you. Do you have anyone in the car with you?
Yes, I do.
Lovely. Thank you.
And we are getting a photo sent to the chat for confirmation.
This is John 612. That we are at Grand and Lake. We're heading toward Irving. We can try and join you.
Thank you, John 612.
Hey, this is Loquito. I'm getting some messages from the WhatsApp group that they're driving around on 28, 29 Pleasant and Pillsbury Avenue. If you want to swing by there first, I'm making my way down that way as well. I am on Lake and Park.
I'll relay to the Spanish chat, or sorry, relay to the Uptown Whittier.
Tired.
Thanks, Aaron.
That Ford just just last
on the car. It was empty. But
Please go on mute. John 612, please go on mute.
it's going to be a right, the next right.
Lokito, go ahead.
The next right, Chicago.
Yeah, that gray F-150 just drove past me on the opposite way towards Cedar. That was on Lake and Park.
That's us.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You could say we've got two commuters behind that F-150.
They're following them.
Do we have anyone in this call who's at 28th, 29th Pleasant right now? Lokito, you're not there, correct?
Don't wave at them. Do not wave.
Correct. I am on 3rd and Lake. I would be there in probably like 2 or 3 minutes.
This is Liv. I'm at Cedar and Lake going
This is hilarious.
west. Do you want me to keep an eye out?
I'm concerned about the reports from the Spanish WhatsApp about 28th to 29th and Pleasant. Ern's relaying to Uptown, but Lokito, if you could head there, if you're up for heading there and you're only a minute or two out, that'd be great.
29th Pleasant.
Hey, this is Fubar. We're also about a minute out.
Unbelievable. That's hilarious. So they started tailing the guy who they think is in the group. That's hilarious. That is really great. Here's a recording. Protesters actively tailing the vehicle I was in, labeling me as ICE, instructing commuters to follow me.
White Chevy Silverado with the newly changed plates with the coexist sticker on the back. We're on Irving.
Oh, this is what we just heard. Okay. A new group chat for each zone is made each day. Chats are dated and deleted at the end of each day. This is likely to avoid detection, record keeping, and consequences. By midday, the group chats hit a maximum capacity of 1,000 people allowed by signal, and people who are not chasing federal agents are asked to leave to create room for those who are. The dispatch calls also reach maximum capacity constantly. I believe it's 50 people maximum, which means at any given time in each small zone, there are 50 people chasing agents. Wow. The quasi-police force uses a system called Salute. We covered that. They're everywhere and local police are cooperating. Here, an observer calls out possible agents but says she's just out walking her dog, so can't continue on. Dispatch call for backup. Also below is a message indicating the local PD may get involved if ICE hinders public safety. These thugs apparently have a home base, though I haven't been able to identify it. Here's an ICE chaser identifying that he's expected there. Here are chasers discussing what should be done after realizing they positively identified my vehicle as ICE, but then found out it was me. I believe this person might be the aggressive individual in the second photo. There's more dispatch chatter where they tweak out when they discover a vehicle. Whistles and horns can be heard in the background. Dispatcher asks for photos and videos of the plate for documentation purposes.
Documentation. The person that just asked for a plate check a minute ago that said 218 AF.
Yeah, it's a white Chevy truck, pickup truck.
Thank you. If you can get documentation, video, or photos of that plate on that car, we can document. Thank you.
Yep, getting that for you.
Update on the corner of 32nd and
sticker.
Update on the corner of 32nd and 15th. It's Kia, Massachusetts. Folks are whistling at this. It looks like this is a confirmed ICE vehicle. The men inside are appear to be ICE, according to the people who are up the window. They have gators. The person.
Protesters use a mutual aid system. I tried to join the mutual aid for Bloomington, and Admin told me that it was a vetted chat for teachers and that I need to describe my relationship to a school and give my real name. I couldn't do that, so I never made it in. Why are there teachers aiding in this effort? These are good questions. ICE chaser operations go all night. The dispatch calls 24/7. Their messages screenshot at 2 a.m. asking for observers at a location with potential illegals. It's from a vetted chat called Wolfpack. This is unbelievable. Coordinators frequently delete messages to cover their tracks. This is another layer of security on top of the daily chat refreshes. So you see that they're very organized, these people. They are very, very organized. You should never underestimate your enemy. They're idiots, but they happen. This is exactly the type of thing that B-level thinking is like perfect at. Minneapolis sign infiltrated. Here's an admin list for several chats. These generally consist of code names. I thought this was a great point. It's a short clip here. I thought this was a great point.
If you want to know if you're a real activist or a fake activist, just do this little test right here and ask yourself this. If ICE was deporting MAGA people, would you be protesting in the streets or celebrating in the streets? Would you be saying, they're targeting U.S. citizens who pay their taxes and not breaking any laws? Or would you be saying, bye? If MAGA people were stalking, harassing, intimidating, and assaulting federal law enforcement, would you still be calling them protesters? Or would you be calling them agitators, provocateurs, criminals, and terrorists? If you think a 115-pound unarmed woman jumping through a window deserved to be shot, but not a woman driving a 2,000-pound weapon into an officer, congratulations. You're a fake activist. If you want to know...
Well said. Well said indeed. It's true. You got a 2,000-pound weapon, and that's nothing. And when I said earlier that Minneapolis doesn't have control of the situation, here is Tim Walz admitting just that they have no control over what the hell is happening in Minneapolis.
Public knows, and this needs to be the event that says enough. Go ahead. No, I'm up front.
We don't trust the federal government to handle this investigation. We know with the Renee Good shooting, BCA said that they were blocked from accessing evidence. Has there been any suggestion that BCA is not allowed to do this investigation? Do you have officers on the ground doing the investigation right now?
The question was related to whether or not the BCA is on the ground currently with the investigation, and a reference to previous investigations that the BCA have attempted to be a part of. What I'll tell you right now is that we no longer have BCA agents or public safety, state patrol, or Minneapolis on the ground at that crime scene.
We don't have anyone there. We got no one there. Why don't you have anyone there? Tell us, Timmy.
By the federal government, or did you pull your agents out?
What I will tell you, and not to get further into the investigation, but DHS pulled out of the scene.
So DHS left, so they left you access to the scene. Go in there.
Leaving that to Minnesota State Patrol, Minneapolis. We did not have enough resources to be able to hold that ground safe.
We couldn't hold that ground safely because there's such chaos going on there.
And we had to leave that scene.
We have no control. We have no control. We suck. We're a bunch of cucks, and they saw that and they ran us out of there.
Because of the number of people that were available and the safety of those in the public and the safety of our teams. We were able to get there, but at that time we were not able to hold that scene to do a crime scene investigation. I can't talk.
We can't hold a scene for protesters. What do you want from us? How are we supposed to do that? I know we have guns. I know we have authority, but we have no way of actually, holding a scene. That sounds crazy.
Any more about those details?
Who is handling the investigation? If not either DHS nor state officials right now.
We'll have more on that, but the BCA is engaged and involved, and we are working.
Short answer, they're involved and have no control over anything that's happening anywhere. Even when DHS leaves, they can't control the situation. CARES, the Islamic Association, interesting to create many fake reports as ICE sightings and send them to disrupt them. That's what the police are saying that they've been doing. That they have to send them on wild goose chases in unmarked cars, which have like dark tinted windows And they just have him like sitting outside Dunkin' Donuts just to freak him out. And send like a whole bunch of agents there. That's how they've been doing that whole diversion thing. Damaging property, stealing my my past labor, slavery. Of course. Joe, if DOJ prosecutes these individual tracking and harassing the feds, can't these recordings be used to help prosecute them for RICO? Potentially, as far as being a criminal enterprise, assuming that there's a crime here. So establish what the crime is. But yeah, I think so. I mean, impeding federal agents. Seems like it. Seems like a criminal enterprise to me. And the impact of all this is actually harming the Democrats. We see the headlines all go to the ones who are screaming and shrieking and blowing their stupid whistles. But the impact as far as what this is doing to the Democratic Party is probably not so good. It's probably not so good for them. Probably not what they're hoping for. At least according to this gentleman right here.
Right now, we're seeing a giant cultural shift when it comes to politics. What we're seeing currently is no longer Republican, Democrat. We're no longer seeing that. What we're starting to see currently at this present time is basically Americans and the left. And I know there's going to be a group of people on the left that don't want to hear that. They're going to sit here. They're going to call me right wing. They're going to call me a bunch of shit. But the problem is...
You know how I know he's not right wing? Because he owns those glasses. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. No one right wing owns those glasses. No one. I'm saying it straight out. You know I'm right. You know I'm telling you the truth. Look at the glasses. Look at the glasses. Tell me he's right wing. Tell me you think this guy is right wing, please. Please. I'm surprised you don't have a deep streak of blue in his hair.
You've pushed people like myself that are independent registered voters so far away that we're never even going to look to the left again. Ever again.
These are my Nana glasses. Look at these glasses. My Nana had these. I'm telling you right now. Surprised he doesn't have like 3 earrings.
It would take a fucking fantasy. It would take a fucking pipe dream in order for me to ever even look in the left's direction again. You guys have done everything you can to bastardize anything normal in this country. You've bastardized people having kids. You've bastardized straight couples. You've bastardized men and women wanting to stay in their separate bathrooms. You've bastardized people trying to keep sexual education away from children. What the fuck is going on with the left, bro? You've bastardized us wanting to keep the country safe. You've bastardized people being patriotic. You've bastardized people waving the American fucking flag. You've bastardized being a fucking American. How can I ever vote in your direction again?
There you go. His name is One Man, 1 Year, 150. Another sign. In case you missed the glasses. In case somehow you missed the glasses. 1 Man, 1 Year, 150. Okay. Well, there you go. There you go. I did want to spend a little time telling you updates about Don Lemon and this whole thing here. So, Don Lemon, I saw some report which really got the law wrong here. MAGA Voice really got this backwards, saying appeals court just found probable cause to charge Don Lemon for storming into Minnesota church. That's not accurate. That's not what the appeals court said at all. That's not what they said. And Harmy Dillon said, stay tuned. I'm not sure what she was referring to when she said stay tuned. This is what they actually said. They rejected the Justice Department push for arrest warrant for Don Lemon. The department had made an extraordinary request for the appeals court to force a judge to issue warrants for Mr. Lemon and 4 other people in connection with the church protest in Minneapolis. Federal appeals court on Friday turned down an extraordinary request in the Justice Department to force a judge to issue arrest warrants for Don Lemon, journalist, and 4 other people in connection with the church protest in Minneapolis last week. The department's unusual petition, which was unsealed on Saturday, along with other documents arising from the case, was a remarkably aggressive attempt by the Trump administration to strong-arm judges in doing its bidding. What they basically did was, instead of having a grand jury, they went to the appellate court and said, overturn that magistrate judge whose wife works for Keith Ellison and declare that there's probable cause and issue an arrest warrant. When they rejected it, what they said was, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We have to consider the complaint. Miko found there was probable cause. That was the magistrate judge said there was probable cause to issue warrants for 3 of the suspects, Nikema Levy Armstrong, Shauntia Louisa Allen, and William Kelly. William Kelly being the lunatic, loudmouth, bearded dude, all of whom were ultimately taken into custody on Thursday, but he refused to approve warrants for the other 5 people, including Mr. Lemon, who's been working as an independent reporter, and his producer, the unsealed court papers said. Almost immediately, the U.S. Attorney of Minnesota, Daniel N. Rosen, who was appointed by Trump last year, notified District Chief Judge Patrick J. Schultz that he wanted another judge to review Judge Miko's decision, which is highly unusual. And it is highly unusual. Typically, Judge Schultz wrote in a letter to the appeals court, if the government is unsatisfied with magistrates' refusal to sign warrants, it can either improve its affidavits, meaning add new information in there, making the request and present it again, or it can set aside its criminal complaint and try a different way to charge suspect, meaning go to a grand jury. You can get a grand jury to indict him. It's important to emphasize that what the U.S. Attorney requested is unheard of in our district, as the best I can tell, any other district in the 8th Circuit, meaning that's just not the way you do it. You have other remedies. You can change your affidavit, add new facts that you don't yet have, or you can go to grand jury with what you do have. You can't appeal, is what they're trying to say. I've surveyed all our judges. Some of them have been judges in our district for over 40 years, and no one can remember the government asking a district judge to review a magistrate judge's denial of an arrest warrant. Moreover, Schultz wrote 3 of the people whose warrants were denied had not been charged with committing any violence, but at worst have been accused of yelling horrible things at the members of the church. He added there was no evidence that Mr. Lemon or his producer had engaged in any criminal behavior or conspired to do so. Well, why don't you have anything saying he conspired to do so? If you don't have that in your affidavit, then of course there's no reason to arrest him. Schultz told Mr. Rosen, the U.S. Attorney, that he would not decide what to do about the warrants until he discussed the issue at a meeting with his colleagues scheduled for this past Wednesday. But the meeting was postponed because of security concerns arising from J.D. Vance's visit to Minneapolis this week. And Schultz informed Rosen that he would make a decision about the warrants after the next meeting scheduled for Thursday. Instead of waiting, however, the Justice Department filed a direct request on Friday to the Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit, seeking an order directing a judge to in the lower court to sign the complaint and immediately issue arrest warrants for the 5 remaining suspects. So they first went to the head judge. He's like, I'm not sure what to do with this. So then they went over his head and they went to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals said no. The warrants were urgently needed, department officials wrote, to protect the public safety from concrete, credible threats of criminal activity this weekend, meaning we're afraid that there's going to be a repeat of this on Saturday in a synagogue or Sunday in a church. Rosen echoed those concerns in the email to Judge Schultz the day before the petition was sent to the appeals court. Copycat raiders of places of worship are in immediate danger as we approach Saturday and Sunday, he wrote, and the Department of Justice has determined that deterrence to such raiders is essential to protecting the safety of worshipers nationwide. So I need you to arrest Don Lemon so that we're not going to see other people go marching into churches on Sunday. Schultz rejected the idea that there was an emergency in his correspondence with Rosen. He said, I don't really believe that the applications present an actual emergency. You already arrested Levy Armstrong and Allen, and Kelly. Those arrests are receiving international publicity. And I think that's going to be plenty of deterrence. So you don't need to have these other 5 people, including Don Lemon, arrested. I doubt very much, the judge went on, that anyone who's still contemplating raiding a church will change his mind if 3 or 4 more demonstrators are arrested. So just because you get Don Lemon doesn't mean you're going to stop people from going into a church. When a 3-panel judge on the 8th Circuit denied Rosen's emergency request, it did so in a single-page order that gave little reason for the decision. It's unclear what the Justice Department may do next to obtain the warrants. It should go to grand jury. The Justice Department has clashed with fellow judges several times over immigration issues. These fights have come in cases involving deportation of Venezuelan immigrants under a wartime statute called the Alien Enemies Act. No one cares about this, and that's it. So the point that I'm getting at here is, yeah, this is not a win for the Justice Department. This is a loss. Arguably makes sense why they lost. I mean, you can't say that Rosen is lacking in logic in what he's saying here. He's like, so if I issue an arrest warrant for Don Lemon, that means no one's going to go in now? You ready? Everyone knows about Levi Armstrong being arrested. Everyone knows about that lunatic William Kelly being arrested. So hopefully that's a deterrence. But if that's not a deterrence, why are you saying it's emergency that we arrest Don Lemon? Then that would be the deterrent. That's what we need now. That's gonna stop it. Unless he gets arrested now, there are gonna be people marching to churches on Sunday. The judge is like, I don't buy it. And it's not an unreasonable position he's taken, to be fair. But the DOJ is saying they're marching forward. Our final clip of the evening. DOJ tweeted out.
I hear it. Look, hugging his kid.
Saying that yesterday, despite clear objections from the DOJ and the gravity of the alleged conduct, 2 radical judges intervened and released 3 of the suspects accused of storming the Minnesota church. Religion's liberty is under attack. This will not stand. The DOJ will not stop until his accountability and faith communities are protected. Well, release doesn't mean that the charges are dismissed. It just means that they're released. So if they go into a church again, I have a feeling they're not going to be released again.
I hear it. Look, hugging his kid.
Did you ever think you would see anything like this in the United States of America?
Religious liberty is under siege in our country right now, and we are not going anywhere until those people who did those acts are held accountable.
Moments ago, the AG Pam Bondi posted this. Minutes ago, at my direction, HSI and FBI agents executed an arrest in Minnesota. So far, we have arrested Nikema Levy Armstrong. So far. Okay, we'll come back to that.
Come and get me, Pam Bondi.
All right, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, just granted his request.
Let's go. Update, second arrest has been made at my direction.
In Minnesota, at least 3 people have been arrested in connection with a protest inside a church last Sunday.
No one is above the law.
So there you go. There you go. The Chinese aren't funding this because they're fearing what's about to happen in Iran. They lost the Venezuelan oil and are about to lose Iranian oil, perhaps. Perhaps. It's good. It's an interesting thought. It's a very interesting thought. Richard Parker's saying they're not looking to rock the boat right now because they're scared that they're not going to have oil soon. Could be. Could be. And that's what I got for you tonight. We did hit our goal. No, it doesn't look like it. If you're looking up at the goals, at the goal post there, it looks like we went wide right, but we did hit that goal. We nailed that sucker. I mean, nailed it solid. And that could have been good from 60 yards. 60 yards, it would have been good. You guys nailed it. So God willing, tomorrow evening, I shall return with more for you on what's going on, likely in the crazy state of Minnesota, but perhaps around the country as well. That will be tomorrow evening. I hope that you enjoyed your time here tonight. Had a great time. A special gratitude to Andrew Branca, who popped on in here, providing his perspectives on the shooting of Pretti and how he felt that it was valid self-defense from what we've seen. Not even probable cause. The probable cause, there's not even probable cause that he should be tried, which I thought was an interesting take. So with that, I thank you for joining me. I thank you for participating in tonight's show. I apologize to those of you who felt I wasn't sufficiently responsive to the chats. I'll see what I can do to remedy that in the future to be more on top of it, even when Andrew Branca is in here, as I expect him to pop in from time to time. So yeah, I'll try to be faster on that. I thank you all for joining me, and God willing, I will see you tomorrow evening. Enjoy championship weekend. Try to stay out of Minneapolis, St. Paul region. You can send them all you love me, because that's not meant for you. It's meant for they, them. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. I thank you all again. Good night and Godspeed.